Hi, I'm Robbie Benson, and welcome to Joel Asher's Actors at Work video. Now, if you're an actor, you already know that you have to get the part before you can play the part. And that usually means the dreaded audition. Auditioning is a process with a few different elements, and we're going to show you all of those elements on this tape. First, we're going to see Joel Asher's acting class on cold readings, so you can develop simple, effective techniques for doing your best work in the shortest amount of time. This is that critical first step to getting the part. For the interview portion, we've brought in casting director Joey Paul. And Joey and Joel will discuss how actors should approach what is called a general interview. Then some actors in the class will try out some of these techniques so you can see how they work. Next, one of the actors in the class will get a callback to come in and read with me, and you'll find out how the callback is very different from the cold reading. Now let's visit Joel Asher's cold reading class.
Lola, this is very hard for me.
What's this all about?
Lola, we've got to make some changes. I'm sorry, I couldn't even find my place on the page.
Okay, all right.
I hate when that happens.
Yes, isn't that terrible?
Sorry, Joel. Sorry, Don.
When you get lost or something else happens that throws your concentration, let it happen to the character. This is your audition. They want you to do well. And if you're in charge, you give them the feeling that you can do not only this part, but anything that they need from you. Okay?
Okay.
Cold readings. Nobody likes them. Casting directors don't like them. Actors certainly don't like them. Producers don't like them. So why do we do them? They're unfair. They're inaccurate as a way of casting something. You never have enough time. Seldom do you get the whole script. But what they're really there for isn't the cold reading itself. What they're really there for is to show who you are as a person and what do you do as an actor. The biggest thing that gets in your way, of course, is tension. So you need to get some simple, clear, and fast techniques that you can use so that the stuff that you really do as an actor, the techniques that you really have as an actor, are going to come through. That way they can see who you are and what it is you do. What you want to do is behave as though you really are this character in these circumstances. That's what they're looking for. Do you fit into the world of this script? So that's where we want to start. The way you do that is to look at the script, and when you're reading it, let it affect you on a gut level so that your intuition begins to fire your imagination. There are a few ways of doing this. You can look at the style of the scene. Is it a heavy emotional scene? Does it make you laugh? Does it make you sad? What does it do to you? Another way to look at it is in terms of the character. What kind of a person is this? Can you feel who the person is? Because when you walk in there, you want to have a sense, this is me, this is what I do. So you want to look for those aspects of yourself that you can get out of this script. You ready? Let's start. Dean and Donna, I have a scene for you about a wife confronting her unfaithful husband.
Didn't she feed you?
Pardon?
The slut you were with last night. Doesn't she know how to cook?
Don't start in. I told you I was working.
Do you think I'm stupid? I called your office every 15 minutes until 2 a.m.
I didn't answer the phone because I was working in the warehouse. And I didn't call because I was hurrying to get finished.
You're lying.
What do you want? Do you want me to leave?
Leave? No. I want to work this out.
Maybe I should move out for a while.
Are you moving with her?
There is no one else. I just think we could use some time apart for a while.
Donna, how does the scene affect you?
Well, she seems like she's maybe a housewife. That's what she does. And
Yes.
she doesn't confront him very often, and it's probably been going on for a long time.
You're intellectualizing the scene. You don't have time to do that.
Okay.
I'm looking for a gut-level reaction.
Gut reaction.
What does it do to you?
It makes her angry. Angry.
How angry?
Angry enough to confront him. Angry enough to do something she's never done before.
Do something she's never done before. That's risky.
Right, yeah. Exactly.
So you really need to get something going underneath the scene. It's not about shouting.
Right. It's about...
It's about the feeling underneath it. That's what you want to connect to.
Okay.
Let's try that and do it again.
Okay. Didn't she feed you?
Pardon?
The slut. The one that you were with last night. Doesn't she know how to cook?
Don't start in. I told you I was working.
Do you think that I'm crazy? You think I'm stupid? I called you every 15 minutes until 2 a.m.
I didn't answer the phone because I was in the warehouse, and I didn't call because I was hurrying to get finished.
You're lying.
What do you want? Do you want me to leave?
Leave? No. I want to work this out.
Maybe I should move out for a while.
Are you moving in with her?
There is no one else. I just think that we could use some time apart.
Where are you going?
I'll call you later.
Once you connect to the material, your imagination fills in all kinds of things for you, and then different acting values start happening on their own. But first, you need to make that connection. It's a good idea when you're looking at the script for the first time. If you get that gut response to it, write it down. Just a couple of words. Articulate it for yourself. That way you'll be sure to do it when you get up here to audition. Now you know how to get your imagination involved in this. Good. But that's not all there is to it. There's another part of it. There's a part of your brain that can figure out what the scene is all about. You can break it down. Well, there isn't time to do a long, in-depth script analysis, but there is time to at least give it a beginning, a middle, and an end. The easiest point to find is the end of the scene, because that's where the scene goes. That's what it's about. It's the scene where your character leaves forever, or this is the moment at the end when, there is the kiss and the fade to black, and so we know they're lovers. Whatever happens in the scene, it happens at the end. Once you've identified that, then look at the beginning of the scene. See how the beginning of the scene is different from the end. It starts off before the event of the scene has happened to the character. So before that has happened, you're in a different condition. And the middle would be the climax of the scene. The climax is the high point. And actually, it's not exactly at the middle. The climax is usually about 2/3 of the way through. If you're doing a comedy or a mystery, you're going to be able to spot it in one specific moment. If you're doing a drama, it's a little subtler and it happens over the course of a few lines. But look for it anyway, because that's the point where the scene stops being what it was at the beginning and starts becoming what it gets to at the end. Take a look at the script in these terms and let's try one. You guys have a scene about a couple of bumbling robbers sitting in their parked car outside the bank. Let's see how that works.
Okay, here we are. Tell me again what you do.
I read the paper holding it up so nobody can see my face.
Yeah.
Engine's off.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody comes, I don't let them park in front. I see you coming, I start the engine. What if a cop comes?
Nobody's gonna bother you. You're parked legally.
You got any change?
For what?
On the meter.
Can't you think of anything yourself? Why do I take you along?
I didn't want to come. I told you I didn't want to come. You want me to leave?
You got no change?
No, I didn't think of it. Got $1.
Great. That's just great. Now what are we gonna do?
I could go in the bank and get some change.
You dummy! Oh, here comes the meter maid. Maid, let's get out of here.
Okay, that seems a lot of fun.
It is.
Got $1, Jeff?
I didn't want to reach in my pockets. Tight pants,
Got it.
So, yeah, here's $1.
Okay. So you don't need to bring in a whole storeroom of furniture and props to an audition. But if there's some one simple thing that's called for, and it's the kind of thing that you might have on you, bring it in. You can use it, and you can make something of that.
Right.
Rick, what happens in the scene for you? Where does it go? How does it change?
Well, it's. I think the character's very methodical. He's trying to go over the stuff so nothing goes wrong, but of course, disaster strikes.
Where does disaster strike?
Disaster. The first level of disaster strikes as soon as I realize we don't have any change.
Okay, is that the climax of the scene, or is there another point that seems stronger?
Well, the biggest thing is the meter maid.
If you use the meter maid as the climax of the scene,
Wow.
You're going to be doing the beginning of the scene all the way through until very, very near the end, so that just becomes a tag.
Right.
What you want to get to, if your gut reaction is telling you this is the scene where disaster strikes, then you want to do what we were just talking about and look at how the scene changes from the beginning to the end. Mm-hmm. What happens in the scene is the disaster, and the disaster that's somewhere around the middle of the scene is the one about change. That would be the climax for you.
Right.
What we'd need to see now is the character who has a good plan at the beginning because it's disaster at the end. Mm-hmm. Let's try it again and see if we can use that.
Okay. Here we are. Tell me again what you do.
I read the paper, holding it up in front of my face.
Right.
Engine off. Mm-hmm. And anybody comes, I don't let them park in front. Mm. I see you coming, I start the engine. What if a cop comes?
Nobody's gonna bother you. You're parked legally.
You got any change?
For what?
Meter.
Can't you think of anything yourself? Why did I have to take you along?
Well, I didn't want to come. I told you I didn't want to come. You want me to leave?
You got no change?
No! I didn't think of it. Got $1?
Great. That's just great. Now what are we gonna do?
Maybe I could go into the bank and get some change.
You dummy! Oh, here comes the meter maid. Let's get out of here!
Okay. That's much better. See the difference? You really make note of it, and those are the moments you want to hit. You see, once you've got a plan, that gives you something to do. It doesn't mean that you need to follow it slavishly, as though this is the only thing that's ever going to happen. You still want to let your intuition take over. You still want to find that spontaneity. But if you have made note of this, either mentally or right on the page, then there's a much better chance that the moments that you want to hit, the things that you want to show them that you understand about the scene, those are really going to happen. Let's go back on what we've done. First thing you did was to try to get a gut reaction to the material so that it can really stimulate your imagination and get you going. Second thing we did was to try to make a plan and figure out where the scene goes. Sometimes you can get these things done and you still have more time. Well, let's use this time effectively. Let's go further. What we're looking for is for you to feel and behave and speak and everything else spontaneously the way this character does. Behavior, that's the key word. Once you've read the scene over and you've got that gut reaction, express it. Express it in some abstract sound or movement. Probably a good idea to do this in private because you don't want to feel silly when you're doing it. But go someplace where you can just make a sound and let that sound carry through to your body. It's going to stimulate you in interesting and unsuspecting ways. Sometimes it's not easy to connect that way. Well, there's a way you can try to help yourself along. Give the character a nickname, such as the princess, or the stud, or anything that's going to make you come alive a little more in this character. You can do the same thing for the whole scene. This is the scene where it all falls apart. This could be the scene where finally you get what you're after. So what is that called in terms of this scene? See, it's just a couple of words, and they can make your acting deeper, richer, and fuller, just in an instinctive and intuitive way. Let's try it. Let's get a couple of people up here. We have a scene with a couple where he's trying to get back together with her.
Janie.
Look, I don't know what you want, but whatever you say, I probably won't believe you anyway.
Janie, I've been a fool.
Can't disagree with that.
I've hurt you. I wish I could take it all back. Come on.
Nick, no.
I want to make it work with you. I know there'll never be anyone like you.
Nicky, it's too much to ask.
Tell me you have no feelings for me and I'll never bother you again. Please. Please.
I can't believe I'm doing this. I can't.
Nice, let's stop here for a second. Jeff, is there a sound that goes with this character for this scene?
Yeah, I didn't do it though. I had a thought, but I didn't do any sound.
Really express it. Can you do it right now?
Yeah.
What's the sound? Can you put a movement together with that sound? Stand up. Bigger. Same thing, just bigger,
Yeah.
both physically and vocally. Okay, good. Carry that into the scene with you. Stacy?
Yes.
Is there a name of this scene or
The meltdown.
The meltdown?
Meltdown.
Wow. Nuclear disaster.
Yeah.
Like all her defenses are crumbling. Oh, that's nice. Hang on to that idea and let's see what that does to the scene.
Janie?
Look, I don't know what you want, but whatever you say, I probably won't believe you anyway.
Janie, I've been a fool.
Can't disagree with that.
I've hurt you, I know. I wish I could take it all back.
Nick, no.
Look, I want to make it work with you. I know there'll never be anyone as good as you.
Nick, please, it's too much to ask.
Please, just tell me you have no feelings for me. And I'll never bother you again. Just tell me.
I can't believe I'm
Please.
doing this.
Okay, stop it there. Did you hear that? That sound that Jeff found? It happened in the scene. That really helped you.
Yeah.
That's a good sense of what this character's going through. How about you? What did that meltdown idea do for your acting?
It helped.
You seemed a lot richer physically. Jeff, there's an interesting thing that happened. The first time through, when you were reaching for her hand, you were doing it in a very strong way.
Yeah.
Once you got in touch with what's going on inside the character, what you did was gentler.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed to fit in more with what was happening instinctively for you. You got a fuller sense of the character. You see, that's how this kind of thing can happen. You don't plan that kind of thing. But the more intuitive you can be about this character and where the character lives, where he or she is coming from, the more the behavior is going to fit all of a piece. And then we're going to have a much better chance of believing that you're this character you're auditioning for. Okay, thank you very much. So it's time to go in and do the audition. But you don't know the lines. Well, what can happen is that the tension of having to find the words and act and do all of these things at the same time can keep what you're really trying to do from coming out and communicating. You need to stay off the script when you're talking. So don't read and talk at the same time. Read when the other person's talking, and then talk to them. When the other person's talking, that's when you can read. So, when they begin speaking to you, look down at this page, get your line, come off the page before the end of the cue line, react to the line, say your line, stay with the other person so that you can see what effect your line had, and then you go back to the page again, pick up your line, you're ready to do it again. Got it? It takes some practice. When you begin, you're going to be coming up and down a lot of times. But practice reading out loud. You need to develop that eye coordination. You can get there. It's just a mechanical thing. It's easy compared to the rest of acting. We have a scene where a couple of con artists meet again at a party.
So what are you doing here?
Look, I don't want to make casual conversation with you, especially here.
Fine. Can I ask you a non-casual type of question?
I'd rather not.
What is it with you? I'm not gonna jump on your bones in the onion dip, for Christ's sake.
You always had a way with words, Frank. Now, if you don't mind, I'm trying to do some business and you're in my way.
Okay, let's hold it there a second. Dean, there's a point here where you have just one-word answers, like who. These real short answers you can probably pick up as you glance at the line above it, so you don't have to go back down to the page again. There's another point where there is this joke about the onion dip. At least it's intended to be a joke. If you go back to the page during a joke, you're going to kill your laugh.
Okay.
So when you have a line like that where the words are important as they are in comedy, that's something you really want to get the whole piece of it and then just look at her and say the line. Candy, you've got a long speech in here, well, relatively long speech, where there are more things to say than you can pick up in just one glance at the speech. When you do that, you're going to need to say the beginning of the line, and then you'll need to stay in character as you go back down to the page again to pick up the rest of the line so that you can say another idea. Try to get a whole idea if you can. The scenes we've been doing so far have been scenes where we've used two actors. And a lot of the casting directors that you'll read for are good readers who are sensitive to the actor's needs, and some casting directors employ readers who are actors themselves and can give you something to respond to. But a lot of the time, you're not going to be so lucky. There are going to be times when you're auditioning with somebody who is saying the words fast and flat, no acting values. So what do you do then? You listen. You use the words they're giving to you, and those words mean something to you. Don't get trapped into not doing your acting work because the person reading against you isn't acting with you. Listen to what's being said and respond to it. Let's get a couple of people here and try it. We have a scene for two women who are both in love with the same guy. So, Donna, let's have you be the casting director who just reads flat and fast. And Candy, let's see how you respond to that.
Are you all right?
I'm really worried. It's probably nothing.
What?
Lenny, he's been weird lately. Well, this morning I asked if he liked my hair. You know what he said?
What?
Nothing. Well, he didn't even look, which is really strange, you know, because he notices every detail. He just...
Mary, there's something I have to tell you.
Well, maybe it's his work. He's working on this movie, and he has this love scene with this beautiful...
Mary, we're engaged to be married.
Who?
Me and Lenny. We've been having an affair.
But Lenny hates you.
I've wanted to tell you for weeks, but you know Lenny. He didn't want to hurt your feelings.
All right. Candy, she's just told you that she's going to marry the guy that you're in love with. That's important. Let the importance of that affect you. The idea of it. We're engaged to be married. That's what's got to make the change.
Okay.
Let's try it again and see if we can't do that.
All right. Lenny, he's been really weird lately. This morning, I asked if he liked my hair. You know what he said?
What?
Nothing. He didn't even look. Which is really strange, you know, because he notices everything, every last detail. He just...
There's something I've got to tell you.
No, but maybe it's his work. He's making this movie, and he's doing this love scene with this really beautiful...
Mary, we're engaged to be married.
Who?
Me and Lenny. We've been having an affair.
Lenny hates you.
I've wanted to tell you for weeks, but you know Lenny. He didn't want to hurt your feelings.
Okay, much better. You can do in your imagination the most outrageous things. You can make decisions about the other character, particularly if the person reading opposite you isn't giving you much to respond to. You can use your imagination to put on that other person, let's say, a naked body if you want to be lustful in a scene, or maybe something silly if it needs to be that kind of a scene. If it's a scene that's supposed to frighten you, then you can see that other character as being terrible, fire breathing out of their nose. You see, all of these things can help get your imagination going, and only you know about it. It's just there for your own creativity. Let's review cold readings. When you first read a script, look for your gut reaction to it. Plan to give it a beginning, a middle, and an end. To get deeper into it, express your feelings with a sound and movement. Nickname the character. Title the scene. And when you're auditioning, stay out of the script. Then respond to the words and your imagination. Some of the time, a cold reading leads to a callback, which means you're one of the chosen few that they want to see again. We're going to try one now. Jeff Doucette has a callback. Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Joel.
You had a chance to look at the script some more?
Yeah, I have.
Good. You're making some of the choices a little stronger, a little deeper?
Yeah, I've tried to, and I think it's worked.
You know you want to do the same performance for the callback that you did for the cold reading, because that's why they brought you in.
Right.
But that doesn't just mean repeating the same line readings and the same movements. The other thing that you have to keep fresh is those impulses, the things that go on underneath it.
Yeah, all the fun you have with it.
Exactly. Yeah. The thing that's going to be different in the callback than you had in the cold reading is that now you've got another actor to work with. So to keep that fresh and alive, you really want to pay attention to what Robbie's doing and let that affect you.
Right.
Okay?
Of course, I will.
I think Joey's here. Hi, Joey.
Hi, Joel. How you doing?
Good. You remember Jeff Doucette?
Of
Yeah,
course.
hi, Joey.
You ready for
See
the
you
call
again.
back?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Break a leg, Jeff.
Thanks.
Today you'll be doing your scene with Robbie Benson. Jeff Doucette, this is Robbie Benson.
Hi, Robbie.
Hi, how you doing?
You ready?
Yeah, are you ready?
Absolutely.
All right,
roll.
let's do the scene.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, we're here. Tell me again what you're gonna do.
I'm gonna read the paper, holding it up so nobody sees my face.
Yes.
Engine off.
Yeah.
Anybody comes, I don't let them park in front. And I see you coming.
Yeah.
I start the engine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Hey, what if a cop comes?
Oh, hey. There's nothing to worry about. We're parked legally. Nothing to worry about. Right?
Right.
All right.
All right. Hey,
What?
you got any change?
For what?
The meter.
You've got to be kidding. You didn't bring any change?
No. I didn't think of it.
Why did I bring you along?
Hey,
My God!
Hey, I didn't want to come. I told you I didn't want to come. You want me to leave?
You have no change.
No, I didn't think of it.
Oh, man.
I got $1.
It's great. $1. What good is $1 gonna do us? You're gonna shove the dollar right into the meter?
Hey, maybe I could go into the bank and get some change.
You dummy! God! Oh my God! Don't look over there. It's a meter, man. Let's get out of here.
That's a callback. Did you see how Jeff responded to Robbie's choices? Now let's talk about interviews. An important part of the audition process is the general interview, where it's just you and a casting director talking one-on-one, and you're just being yourself. So we have with us today independent casting director Joey Paul. Hi, Joey.
Hi, Joel. How you doing?
Okay, let's talk about the interview.
Okay.
I think one of the most important parts of an interview is making a friend. It's a technique that you can always use. How would you go about doing that?
I think it's most important that when an actor comes in that they be very relaxed, with lots of energy. And sometimes to do both at the same time is very difficult.
Yeah.
So if you can just trust that you can be your best self and warm and polite, yet not overdoing it, then you go with the flow, and hopefully that will communicate and you will make a friend.
A technique that I've used sometimes is what's called mirroring. And actors can do that in some very interesting ways. You can either physically mirror another person so that the two of you have similar postures. I'm not talking about mimicking. It doesn't
Right.
have to be exactly, you know, one person scratches their eye, so you scratch your eye.
Right.
But if you get yourself physically in the same condition as the other person, you can even mirror breathing. I find that this works well because it allows actors to get the focus off of themselves so they're not so literally self-conscious and get the focus onto the person they're talking to.
I think to mirror one's personality is where you're going to get the most mileage. Hopefully you can find something in common with that casting director, and then you're sort of off and running. You know?
I see. That's a great idea. If you mirror a person's personality,
Right.
then what you can also do is get involved in the other person emotionally.
Right.
So that if they're feeling sedate and businesslike. You go in and you're not all over the place and bubbling and making a fool of yourself.
I think it's a really great objective for an actor to be able to get the casting director to talk about themselves. People like to talk about themselves. I mean, no matter where you go, who you are, who you're talking to, people like to talk about themselves. So if you can get a casting director to share with you about themselves, maybe reminisce about something about themselves, they've then shared something private, and they trusted you enough to speak to you that way. I think you'll have better chances of them remembering you than if they felt that they shared something with you, as opposed to them being there as a sounding board for you to say, I'm this, I'm not that, I've done this, I'm from such and such, and da-da-da-da-da, you know?
It's a great idea, but it sounds tricky, because a lot of the questions that actors get from casting directors are these general questions like, well, tell me something about yourself, or what have you been doing lately? Is it a good idea to have some prepared anecdotes?
I think that they can work to your advantage. What I think works best is maybe if you have a couple of different anecdotes, but then not planning, thinking like ahead before you walk in the door, well, when I go in there, I'm going to tell XYZ anecdote.
Sure.
But to have maybe a few anecdotes, and then depending on the personality of the person that you meet with, you can select one that you think might be appropriate for that time.
Good advice. Interviews tend to be dynamic too. They're not the same when you leave as they were when you came in. The same with scenes. So that if an actor can pay attention to how it's changing, whether it's becoming more friendly or more formal, what areas it's going into, that can be useful too. What about questions? Is it appropriate to ask casting directors questions?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that that's where interviews probably go astray, is an actor walking in expecting that the casting director is going to have a list of questions that they ask in a typical general interview. If you can go in thinking that in some nice, natural way you're going to entertain them, I think you'll get a lot farther than just walking in and expecting them to reel off a list of questions so that they can find out about you.
Entertain them. That's a good catchword, as though you were inviting somebody into your home and had to make them feel comfortable.
Yeah, and that's a great analogy, as if you were inviting them into your home, because a lot of times you can misconstrue the idea of entertaining someone, again, can push you over the edge to wanting to be on in a way. But psychologically, if you could think you were entertaining them in your home, even though you're in their environment, if you could take that twist on it, I think you'll be very successful.
It sounds like the rule of thumb would be to really be responsive to the other person and pay attention and do what seems welcome at the time so that you can make that kind of a connection. Let's get some actors up here and see if we can practice some of these things. Candy, come on in and meet Joey Paul. Okay. Just a second. Before you start, take a deep breath. Inhale, exhale, do something to relax. You see, before you go in, when you reach for that imaginary door and you're thinking, oh my God, she's gonna hate me, you have control over that. Instead, when you reach for that door, how about thinking, I like her already? So you walk in, you're relaxed, and you're confident. Meet Joey Paul.
Hi, Joey.
Hi, Candy. How you doing?
Good.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, too. Hey. Here.
Thank you.
This is me. Thanks for taking the time to see me.
My pleasure. Well, I'd say that looks like you.
Thanks.
That's a good start, huh?
Yeah, that's what they say anyway.
Is that naturally curly hair?
It is. I just started wearing it like this. Actually, I've been blowing it out all my life and decided I needed to change. And so...
I hate you.
Are you one that wants your hair curly forever?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's just pin straight, so.
Your hair doesn't look straight, though. You look like you have a lot of body in it.
It's a lot of effort.
Yeah. Well, I'd give you some of this if I could, believe me.
You might want to think about getting an alternate picture as well with your hair curly, just so you have the versatility of both.
Good. Okay, I just started wearing it like this, and I thought that would probably be a wise thing to do.
Yeah, definitely. Some nice theater on your resume.
Yeah, I just, what's not on there that I just finished working on was Barry Moses' bar mitzvah.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about
Yeah.
that. I wanted to get to see it.
It's silly. It's silly, very silly. Did you see either Tony Tina's Wedding or Tamara?
I did.
Did you like those?
Yeah, very much. I, as a matter of fact, years ago did a performance piece that was similar to the way those pieces are done, an environmental theater piece.
Interacting.
Right.
Well, it's kind of popular now, I guess, with the murder mysteries and things. And Barry Moses was
Let's
kind
stop
of a
here for a
cross.
second, shall we? This is a good interview. You see, what happened is when you began, we got into the conversation about the hair, which you very nicely transferred onto her, and everything picked up at that point. After that, it kind of went downhill a little bit when Joey was looking at the resume, and the question and answers were rather businesslike and not really connected. But after that, by bringing it back to her and by talking about, you know, what have you seen, what have you done, you were able to get back again the friendly atmosphere in the interview. Okay, how did it feel for you?
I think there's always going to be a little natural spot in there where there's a little bit of a lull, because you have to allow the casting director to get a feel of who you are, and you should feel comfortable about allowing that space to occur and not feel anxious about what should I say next. So she did something really nice, though. While I was looking at her resume, she took the opportunity to help the segue by saying what's not on there is such and such, so that, you know, and she addressed something new that's going on with her right now, as opposed to just sort of sitting there silently while I was perusing her resume. So that helped, because otherwise it would have been just dead silence, because for me, I needed to get a feel of who she was.
That's what you mean about taking control over the interview, then.
Absolutely.
All right,
Yeah.
good. Thank you, Candy.
You're welcome. Thank you, Joey.
Thank you.
See you later.
All right.
Dean, let's have you come up and meet Joey Paul. Don't forget to breathe.
Thank you. Much better.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, Dean. Okay.
So,
This looks like you. Do you have
Thanks.
photos with your glasses too?
yeah, I do. Mostly my commercial headshots have my glasses on in them.
Do you need your glasses, or can you work without them? Or?
Well, I have contact lenses, but I had this thing with my eye that was bugging me. I just said, you know, forget the contacts for a while until I get new ones. And then, you know, if they want the glasses off, I can take them off. I can't see the cue cards, but, you know.
Okay. Where are you from originally?
Encino.
A native? A native Californian. I never knew what one looked like.
I was raised by a pack of wild Jews in Encino. Where are you from?
I'm originally from Chicago, the Midwest.
Chicago. My dad's from Waukegan.
Is he?
Yeah.
Wow. That's not too far from where I grew up.
Let's stop a second. All right, good. You okay?
I'm fine.
We had that little awkwardness at the beginning of the interview. Might help if there were an attitude, maybe even something that you know about Joey that you want to talk about. I saw the last thing you cast. I loved it. Something like that that'll get you over that awkward hump at the beginning of it.
What if I don't know the last thing she cast?
Good idea to walk into an interview being prepared. Get as much information as you can. Of course, then we got real comfortable and casual with where you're from. I love the
You think
joke.
he looks comfortable?
You have a problem with the position, huh, Joey?
No, I mean, I don't, because I feel, you know, if that's what works for him, it works for him because he was confident about doing it. However, there might be some executives or casting directors he'd meet who'd be a little taken aback by his instant comfortability. But he does it with such charm and relaxed confidence that it kind of works. You know, he comes in with this quirkiness, and it works.
So the feet on the chair can work for Dean, but maybe not for everybody, right?
It depends on the casting director. See, for me, it would be fine, but he didn't necessarily take a moment to size me up to see how I might respond to something like that.
All right. Thanks, Dean.
Thank you. Should I take this and...
No, I'll keep it.
Please.
Joey, thank you so much for coming down. That was
Thank
very
you.
helpful.
My pleasure.
What if it's not going well in the audition itself? You're there, you're doing your cold reading, and you feel as though you're going down like the Titanic. Change. Really. Stop. Make a sound that expresses how you're feeling. You, right then at that moment, or laugh, or take a breath, and change, go in the other direction. Don't think about it, just do it. What you do then is you stop thinking, oh God, this is terrible, and you start just doing something, behaving as that character. Maybe it's illogical, who knows? You might hit on something, and even if it's wrong, you can change it again. But at least you're in control. And finally, when it's all over, when you turn in the script, you thank them, and you're ready to go out with confidence. That was one marvelous audition. Believe it. Or if you can't, at least fake it. Break a leg.
Well, that's the class. Did you learn some things? Think about it. Then practice these techniques, and you will improve.
To get the part, actors need to know what casting directors are looking for. Where do they go to discover new talent? What makes a star? How should you behave at an audition? What about callbacks, training, showcases, photographs? So we asked some of Hollywood's top casting directors to tell us from their point of view. Here are their revealing answers to these questions and a lot more. How did you get into casting?
I got into casting in a little roundabout way, I suppose. I used to go and highlight names in TV guides, because I thought they were wonderful, and the name would stick in my mind. This is when I was 10 or 15 years old. And now, when I think back, I know it's still in there somewhere.
It sounds like you were a born casting director.
A born casting director.
I didn't know there was such a thing.
Who knew? I mean, you don't know. That was never my aim. I never thought in my mind, wow, I want to grow up and be a casting director. But it's absolutely wonderful. I really love it.
How did I get into casting? By accident.
God, it's the funniest thing in the world. Honestly, it's something in my wildest dreams I never imagined that I would become or even choose to pursue. I really believe that my becoming a casting director was the field of casting coming after me and seeking me out.
I originally thought I wanted to be an actress.
What kinds of shows do you cast?
Mostly television. I've done several series now over the last 4 years, and some video projects, some voiceover projects. But television is great because it is much like a steady job.
A lot of our stuff is high fashion and beauty, so that's one whole area of what we do. And then another stuff is sort of, I want to call it light comedy dialogue, but almost everything we do is commercials.
I cast both feature films and television movies of the week and TV series. I've done a few commercials.
Well, they say comedy, and comedy is my forte. I enjoy doing it. I like making people laugh. I really enjoyed everything I've cast. I really have. I never had so much fun or learned so much as I did on All the President's Men. I never learned how to dance so much on Saturday Night Fever. And Naked Gun, the outtakes are funnier than the movie itself. Wow. And Cheech and Chong, no scripts. So I've really enjoyed I love my career.
What does an actor do in order to get cast?
You come in totally prepared. You try to know as much about the character as you can. And you go in like you already have the part.
I love inventiveness. I love something different. So if somebody comes in and plays something the very obvious way, that can be a little disappointing too. Because it's someone who does their homework and goes and studies the many facets of the character they're playing and what situation that character's in. If you do that in your mind, divvy up all the different scenarios, all of that will be there. You'll bring that into the room with you.
Should an actor do something different just to avoid being the same?
That really depends upon the situation and on the individual reading and the scene. I have had actors that do something different for the sake of being different, and it doesn't work. You know, you need to keep the reality of the scene going. So if it's something that is intrinsic to your character, then that's fine. But yes, inventiveness is always a wonderful choice. Make the strong choice.
Quite frankly, what I do is I think, well, now, if I were directing the spot, who would I want in it?
Oh.
You know, I look at it from that point of view. If I were directing the spot, who would I really feel could deliver the goods over and over and over again? And that's, I think, my point of view.
Deliver it on each of those 60 or 70 takes.
That's right, and who's not going to wilt, and who's going to be inventive, and is going to be creative all the time. Because the truth of the matter is, we love the improv actors. You would think that in film they'd want you to do it exactly the same way time after time after time after time. They're all waiting for that magic, that little magical accent that happens, that little piece of improv, that little something that you add on one of the takes that just makes the whole thing a piece of magic.
What is that piece of magic? Is it definable?
It's probably being really so totally in the moment that whatever happens, you go with it.
I believe that when an actor walks in for an audition, they should be open enough to, not necessarily criticism, but to be able to play. If a casting person wants them to change a line reading or get up on their feet or even change the entire line, to be able and not to be stuck doing it one way. You know, totally memorized. Don't do that. Be able to play.
Do you remember any times when you've come across an actor that you never knew before, an unknown actor who had that quality and it really worked?
Well, I think you and I had the conversation that is the first time I met Mickey Rourke. You knew it. I mean, this was a bull in a china shop. I mean, he was just ready to go. I mean, there was just no holding him back. He was going to read it anyway, anyhow, on his head, in a closet. It didn't matter. And you had to sit back and take notice. There was no way you could take your eyes off of him.
What did he do? What was there about him that...
Oh, gosh. I mean, it was just everything. You lost the fact that someone was acting. Everything he seemed to have been saying, although it was my script and I had read it God knows how many times, it was him. But it was him. I was no longer in a casting session. I was listening to someone talk. I mean, that floored me. That was incredible to me.
And did you cast him?
And in New York Minute. I mean, the unfortunate part was that they already had the lead. And you know, you can do so much by saying you're wrong to your producer without getting fired. You know, and then they say, okay, well, we'll give him this part, and you get him Taft-Hartley'd, and then the rest is history.
So he was a non-union, unknown actor when you came in.
Right, and not frightened of anything. And I think that's part of the key. I think, unfortunately, in this town, actors are told so many things not to do that when they walk in, they're a puppet. Don't do this. Don't, you know, sit down, read the lines. You know, don't do this. Don't. That they become so restricted that they lose what they might have.
So a lot of it is having that sense of freedom to be yourself and do whatever happens?
Right. Take that shot. Why not? For me, I'm sitting here all day long reading that same material. Bring something to me that will wake me up, maybe. That'll say, wow, I didn't even ever see it that way. That was great.
Can an actor go too far?
Yes, but that's all right. You can pull him back. I'd rather pull back than say, could you wake up a little bit? You know, can you get a little bit more oomph to it?
Yeah, I don't think you can sit back and think just because you're a good actor that at any point in time you can just push the button and make it happen.
What makes a good actor?
Someone who can trust a situation and let emotion and reaction happen naturally in a shared experience, and just let the spontaneity of that carry them away.
There's a certain charisma, you know, that an actor has when they walk in the door. And believe it or not, you can usually tell right then what kind of reading it's going to be. A lot of it has to do with if they're bringing the love of the art into the room with them. And all of that entails, meaning preparation, you know, that they really study a scene and know the scene when they come into the room.
Know it in what sense?
Know what is going on in the scene, the history of the character, what happened before, what's coming afterwards. So there's a whole life to the character. That's what makes it riveting. I mean, people in life that you talk to, the ones that are storytellers, that can tell you something. You can get 10 people to tell you the same tale, but 1 or 2 people will tell it in such a way that you visualize it. You're actually there with them, you're reliving it. It brings you into it. So it's not a passive listening thing, it's like an active reliving. And that's what acting's about. It's the art of communication, basically.
Telling a story.
Yes, absolutely. In an interesting way, in a humorous way, in a passionate way. I mean, the actors that come in and have a great passion for the art and for the work.
And you say you can tell that as they walk in the door? You
can, after a certain point. It's very interesting.
What is it? What do they exude that tells you that?
In a way, it's undefinable, so it's hard to put it into words because it seems to reduce it to something. But if I had to describe it, it would be a life to them, something going on behind the eyes. You know, that twinkle, that you know they're there because they want to be there and they cannot wait to do this. And that they create a whole life from words that are on a page.
The perception on the part of actors who know nothing about commercials is that the acting in commercials is very phony. It isn't, it's just condensed, and that's the big difference. Do you understand the difference by condensed and phony?
Tell me.
Okay. Phony is where the energy, my energy level is like this. Well, that's not what I'm feeling right now. I've hyped myself up 3 steps higher than I am to do it. And people suspect that that's the kind of energy we're talking about with commercials, but not. It's changed. So you maybe you probably pitch yourself about a half step, like in music, higher than you may feel.
Yeah.
But we don't ask you to do any more than that because it looks so phony. And when we review the tapes that we direct people on with the clients, generally, the comment that I hear most often, I truly believe that he is this person. So it's still believability.
What are the things that an actor shouldn't do?
I would say, first of all, not to be late. I would, and the actors themselves have made it a point of making sure material is available in advance. Get the material. Try to be as prepared as you can. You know, people say, should I dress the part? You can tell how far to go with a certain role. As far as you can overdress. I mean, you don't have to do that. I'm waiting to see a performance, not if you're best dressed. And if you feel more comfortable about not speaking before the interview, let the casting person know that.
You come in and say, I don't want to talk now?
Or I don't want to talk to you. No, you don't say that. You know, no. What you can say is, do you mind if we read first? Because I really have a feeling about, you know, the material. And the casting person will absolutely go with that.
So then there's some conversation that happens either before or after the audition.
Right, right.
What about behavior during that interview part of it? Are there things that an actor should be careful to do or not to do in the interview?
Well, you try not to take up an enormous amount of time, but, you know, a life story or why I'm not prepared or I just got the material and I couldn't read it last night. That's really not my problem. If you are in my office and you do have that material, then you better be ready. Otherwise, cancel the appointment. If unfortunately something has happened personally that's real, don't come in if your head's not here. I need you 100%. You need yourself 100%. And if you're not, don't do it.
What's the worst thing an actor can do in an audition?
Throw something at me, probably.
What if he misses?
That's even worse. There you go. The one thing that disheartens me is a lack of preparation. There are many actors that do come in and have not studied the material. They ask me how to pronounce words and what words mean. On a street corner, that's fine, but to me, that means that they did not do the homework. Because if you don't know what you're coming in as a character, and the character knows what words they're saying. Sure. So in a sense, that again is apart from the character. There's a lack of reality that's going on at that very level. But it shows too that there's not the love for it, and there's not the passion. And that can show in a reading because it's a very one-dimensional reading.
Is it important for actors to be in classes?
I don't know if you can learn too much. You know, I don't believe you really ever stop learning. I hope not.
Yes, I think it's very important for actors to continue studying in class because it keeps you fresh and it keeps you working. And I think that's very important because it is such a difficult profession to work consistently in. When you're not doing a job that you really love, when you're in between jobs, you need to keep that going. Otherwise, your morale can certainly dip. And it's like anything, practice makes perfect.
So it's not just the experience, it's also what they've done for training?
Oh, yeah. Who they're training with is very important, yeah. I think it tells you something. They've investigated enough to get, you know, to be one of the better teachers, to be studying with one of the better coaches, you know, and I think that has a lot to, that says a lot.
It's about all of that. It's about being fit as an actor. You know, today everyone's consciousness is so aware of being physically fit. That needs to apply to the actor in their craft, that they go to class or they do workshops or they are a part of a scene study group or an acting company to hone their skills, to keep themselves current.
When you see actors, do you ever take new people or do you always see established actors?
I do the best I can to see new actors. I'm extremely sensitive to that, just because of the fact of how many years I spent in this town. I mean, I started in the business when I was quite young, so I'm extremely sensitive and hope that I can make opportunity for actors who deserve a place, who have studied their craft, who understand how the business works. You know, it's not, I don't think it's just designed for somebody to just get into town and get lucky in the next 2 weeks. I like to give praise and reward those who've paid their dues, so to speak.
How does a newcomer get started?
Well, Funnily enough, this is like the great garbage heap of acting, so we use up people a lot. So what I'm saying is, right now, we're in a good period in that agents are likely or interested in seeing new people, always.
I think more and more the trend is to find someone new. At least that is what I get when I talk to directors and producers. They want something new, something fresh, something original. So I go out to theater. I do cold reading workshops a lot. I found many wonderful actors there. So I try to do that often. I go to theater any and everywhere I can. Because a theater-trained actor is absolutely a joy.
So you go to small theater around town?
Yes, I do. I got burnt a lot from it and got turned off to it a little bit and stopped. So unless it's a reputable company, I don't go.
Mm-hmm. So how do you find new actors?
I do a lot of readings in my office. I don't mean to say I don't, and I'm still over at the comedy clubs quite often. You know, comedy still is my forte, and you know, I do enjoy doing it. But go to the clubs. Like I say, I will go to the theater that people recommend to me, and I enjoy meeting actors here in my office. You know, I do meet enormous, and of course in restaurants. You're always meeting actors in restaurants.
You mean the waiters?
Absolutely. That's not fair, but I do meet quite an abundance of actors.
Do you get put off when your
Not at
waiter
all.
comes and says, here's your entree and here's my resume?
Well, yeah, if they did it that way. But you know, I don't get put off at all. If they come over and say hello and afterwards, would it be all right if I don't. There's a time and a place.
So you go to small theater and showcases and...
Oh, absolutely. I mean, my roots are in the theater. So, again, it would be really important to me to implement the opportunities that I have to see new actors in theater, or even actors who I haven't seen in a long time who are in the theater. If I've seen them do something recently and their work is really at a great peak right now, it's nice to help that segue into something else.
So is there any truth to the myth of actors being discovered on the street or in drugstores or health clubs, that kind of thing? Does that ever work for you, or do you look to see actors when they're really at work?
You know, that's the thing about Hollywood. It's not a town where there's any rules. I think everybody sort of finds their own process that works for them. And I can't sit here and tell you that I stick to only finding people in a showcase or the theater. I mean, it's certainly a rarity, but I can remember one time being in a bowling alley near my home on a Friday night and seeing a young girl who was so perfect for what we were doing. And I approached her and gave her my card and found out if she'd ever done anything in business, and it turned out she'd done some modeling and was hoping to do some acting, and
Wow.
I did end up bringing her in, and I think she was just flabbergasted. You know, somebody approached her in a bowling alley on a Friday night. Who is this person?
That's great.
But she really did look perfect for what I was doing at that moment in time.
So you do go to these showcases?
Yes, I still go to them. Yeah, I go from time to time. I try to go to the ones that are good. I think that in terms of showcases, actors sometimes mislead themselves in picking material they were not born to play, and so it doesn't show themselves very, very well. Actors think they can play everything, and sometimes they can't.
Yeah. Do you ever see actors who don't have agents?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I like to get actors' agents if I really feel that they have something to offer and need to be represented. I'll sometimes do that if I meet them, or if I go to a showcase. And I used to go to showcases a lot, and I would pick somebody out, and he'd say, well, I don't see myself as very commercial. I said, well, I'm sorry, I think I do. And can I take the trouble to get you an agent? And they've done very well.
How does an actor get a part? Is it that they try their hardest? I mean, first of all, you have to make sure or give it your best that you're with an agent that helps you. An agent cannot do it all for you, though.
What should an actor expect of an agent?
To be on top of it, to be able to look at those breakdowns and see, maybe it's a smaller role, but maybe it's something that this actor has never done before. And the agent should be familiar enough with the actor to say, you know, I just read this in Breakdown, and this is really an interesting thing. And Sean Connery is the lead, and it only has 4 lines, but you know something? Go up for it. Give it a shot. So that the agent works with the actor.
Photographs, are they
Very
important?
Very important.
What's important in a photograph? What should an actor look for?
Or what do I look for? Or
Yes, good. What do you look for in a photograph?
I look for something that is, I wish I had some right here to be able to show you. I mean, but there are the ones that are so badly or so well, they're touched up so much that I don't play poker well. And when an actor walks in the room and I look at the picture and then I do look at the actor and it's entirely different, I tell the actor immediately, this is wrong. This is not you. I want something that looks exactly the way the actor does, so that when they walk in, this isn't a shock to me. Really, you know, and I appreciate the various poses and stuff like that, but something that's real, something that's them. You know, I don't need hats, and I don't need gloves, and I don't need cutesy expressions, and I don't need side angles, a direct shot.
Well, for one thing, they should have a very good headshot of themselves that looks like them. Problem, and I don't mean, it's not a sexist thing, but I will say this, or maybe it is a sexist thing. It's indicative of a certain kind of sexism. Women go into a photographer's studio and they immediately try to glam them up and make them sexier than they are. And I don't think that's a good idea. I think you have to stand behind your picture. Your picture is you. And very often when we'll come in here and I'll look at a picture and I think, my God, first of all, our skin is completely blanched out, so that we have no idea what our skin really looks like. And I say, are you really this person? They say, oh, well, the photographer, you know, was fooling around and I like the shot. I said, yeah, but it doesn't really look like you. And is this who you are? Well, I suppose I could be this way. I said, well, you know, we are dealing with the high-priced models, the glamour girl, truly glamorous women. And do you want to put yourself in that market where it's not going to do you any good? Why not aim for what you really are?
What makes a picture or a resume stand out?
Basically, what I can tell you is what the process is of what I do, and that'll probably help to understand it better. All the deliveries come in from the agencies, which can be a pile of photos and envelopes 4 to 5 feet high, you know.
Wow.
Each envelope containing as many as 30 pictures, particularly even if an episode I'm doing has like 15 characters and an agent submits 2 people per part, that's 30 pictures right there. And typically an episode I would do, at least recently, has as many as 15 characters, sometimes even more. So each of those envelopes is then sorted into characters. So eventually there are 15 different slots of all these different characters. Sometimes there can be as many as, I'd say an average of 300 to 500 pictures per part. And that is all sorted by about 6 o'clock at night. So then later that evening, I will go through all the pictures and pick out approximately a dozen people to read.
A dozen out of those hundreds?
Yeah. I mean, that's all I have time for. If there's 15 characters, and I'm seeing 12 people per part, that all have to be scheduled within the next 24 hours, you're talking about, you know, almost a couple hundred people right there. So, and all those people have to be seen in one day. I always tell actors, if you get an interview in this town, that first audition you should look at psychologically as a callback. Because the truth is, let's say 500 people were submitted, okay? And then 12 people are seen, and you're one of those 12 people. Well, that means that by the time you've gotten that interview, you have knocked out 488 people. Now there's only 11 left, and your talent, because chances are your look is right if you're chosen, now your talent can stand on its own. That's why your picture and resume is so important. It's your calling card, and that picture and resume has to stand out amongst 500 others.
I actually look for a certain style or twinkle in somebody's eye. you have to realize how many submissions we get and how many photos we get. And there is kind of an unspoken and maybe spoken rule as well that you should just have a straight ahead headshot, black and white. And
Not a
that's it.
composite.
Exactly. Yeah, composites are for commercials, certainly, but we look for the headshot. I like something that varies a little bit. More and more photographers today are doing something with maybe a black border where you can look off, you know, and have your head tilted a little bit. We want to see you full on so we see your face. The most important thing as a photo is that you look like your photo, because there are many actors that have photos that are extraordinary and they do not look as good as their photo. And a lot of times you're calling in someone. If it's a beautiful glamour photo, you're going to call in that glamour. And when it's not there, it actually gets in the way of the work. And it is a reflection on someone. You know, you remember that. You know, it's a perception. So much of it is perception. So you want to represent yourself in the best way possible, but be very true to what you're all about. And I think any kind of shot that's a bit different as far as framing goes, or placement on the page. There are some that are placed maybe in a corner more. It's still a full headshot, but they have a white border, you know, on two sides. It's just interesting. It's something that catches my eye that I notice more.
Do things like, you know, colored envelopes or little gifts and trinkets that come in the mail, do those things make any difference? Do they catch your attention?
Tequila would.
Tequila.
That has in the past.
Any
yes.
brand?
Any. The best I ever got actually was an actor sent me a balloon bouquet, which was delivered to my house, and he said, "Please let me read for this role." And the funny thing is, I would have called him in anyway, but I enjoy the balloons, and that was you know, if someone's going to go to that much of an extent, I'll call them in, again, because it's time and money, and you do laugh, and
so the bribes work.
Well, once in a while, but no, actually the colored envelopes don't really do much because they're opened by someone else. Sometimes you have interns or assistants opening the envelope. So if somebody writes a note on the envelope or sprinkles a little confetti or things like that, I don't usually get the opportunity to see that. So that is actually a note. You know, a lot of casting directors do not see that.
Mm-hmm. So you can waste a lot of extra time and money.
Yes, absolutely.
But you do get to see the tequila and the balloon bouquets.
Yes, yes. That tends to take notice a little bit.
Okay.
I don't mind postcards. They're fine. You know, I like postcards. You know, people send you postcards. I look at it and I try to remember who they are. Gifts, I don't know. This woman came in and gave me a gift, and I thought, why? It embarrassed me.
Does an unusual approach help? Something I've heard of actors who send pizza with their picture inside the flap.
Absolutely. I once had an actor send his mother up, which to me I thought that was the best thing, because I totally relate to that growing up, you know, in a family like that. Oh, the mother came up with her picture, with the son's picture, and said, "Please," you know, which I thought was hysterical. But you know, that's my warped sense of humor. But I do appreciate, you know, unique things. But you know something? It runs into money. You have to pay your mother. No, you have to, with certain things that you do, you know, if you're sending candy, if you're sending pizza, that costs money. So I don't really believe there's anything wrong with writing a personal note. Not one of these form letters that everybody gets. But dear Fern, I love the casting on Naked Gun. I thought it was terrific. But something that puts you in touch with Fern, not dear casting person. This business is based on first names. So get familiar with me. Know the work that I do. Tell me that you just saw a recent episode of WKRP. And I love music. Something that puts you and I a little closer together. A personal letter.
What about callbacks? Should an actor try to do something more in a callback than they did the first time around? Or should it be the exact same reading?
I say it's the exact same reading, otherwise why would I have called the person back? And that's such a great question, because invariably there are times where an actor will come back. I have no idea what happens in 24 hours, but something's gotten to them. And they walk in and I sort of just want to crawl into a little hole, because that really wasn't what I had seen. And if I'm calling them back, do the same thing.
But that's tricky, because it can get stale in 24 hours. The first time they have the excitement of meeting you and trying something that they've never done before. The second time, they've already done it. Keeping it fresh is tricky.
But there's new people. This is it. This is your shot. You had a dress rehearsal, you're on. This is opening night. So I can't see stale coming into play.
Dress the same.
Dress the same, do everything the same. If you get nervous, drink a glass of water before you walk in.
Dress the same way for the most part, you know, unless sometimes we get notes. Tell him to wear this, tell him to do that, tell him not to wear his toupee, tell him not to, tell her to dress down a little bit, tell her makeup. They'll sometimes give us notes, but not always. So in general, it's dress the way you came the first time, unless you've been told by your agent to come other way.
What about the acting choice?
It's going to change. It's going to change. I would start with what I did, but I wouldn't try to sit and try to, oh, now what did I do? Because sometimes the callback's 2 weeks later, and you say, wait a minute, I had 55 calls since then. What did I do when I went to Danny's? I think oh yeah, this is the barbecue one. So you're not in the present anymore. You're just trying to recreate something you did in the past. Generally, the director is there, and he'll give you his opinion, which could or could not help.
Is there also preparation that an actor needs to do for a callback? And is that different from what an actor does for a first audition?
Sometimes there is something different you must do for a callback, but that's really a question you need to ask, again, with the individual circumstance. And that's where you can utilize your agent. I tell many actors in the cold reading workshops that I do, use your agent. You know, they're there working for you. So keep that contact constant. When there's a callback, have the agent call the casting director, have them call me, and ask if there's something different they should do, if you want the same reading, if you should dress the same. You know, how should you dress? Because a lot of times, a certain producer on a show does not want an actor to show any creativity. They want them to come in, you know, just as they are, maybe in jeans and a casual shirt, and do the reading. And they get offended if an actor or actress will come in with a wig and in character, because they think that shows that they, as a producer director, have no imagination. Now, as an actor, you wouldn't know this because you don't know the producer or director, usually. So those are all questions that can help you get a job, and they're things that an agent can answer for you. Information's power.
I have seen so many actors lose a job because they tried to make the callback something extra special than what they did in the original interview. The truth is, if you were called back simply because of what you did in that interview. And that's what you need to come back with. Wear the same clothing. If the casting director gave you an adjustment, recall that adjustment. Maybe they missed a comedic beat. Maybe they missed a joke that I know the writers are going to be looking for someone to nail. It'd be great if somebody comes in and nails everything. But, you know, again, the heightened circumstance of an audition, sometimes someone can, you know, catch 75% of what they're supposed to do. But because they don't know 100% of what I'm looking for, I can help them achieve that.
So the adjustment is you giving direction to the actors in the audition.
Exactly. And a lot of times, if an actor gets a callback, they forget that there were adjustments that took place and go back to the original reading. So they miss out because of that, or they try to enhance what they were given and make it that much more.
How does an actor get work?
An actor better be a good business person in order to get work. It doesn't just happen. It is not a coincidence when actors get hired.
I don't know. To me, the work is the work. You know, you either have it or you don't have it.
You give it your best shot. The good news, and you and I have said it before, and it's been said so many times, it ain't brain surgery. And we're not curing cancer. It's a job. And you try to do as best as you can. And you hope that you can study hard enough, and you're with a good teacher, and you're in a good class, so that when you walk into the door, as uncomfortable as it always will be, it will never change. It's a tough room to walk into, that you feel secure enough to give it all, to give it your best shot.
I'm very spiritual in the sense that I believe that you do create your life in whatever way you want it to be. That there's absolutely nothing you can't accomplish if you really set your mind to it. Within reason. I mean, if I don't have good eyesight, I'm not going to be an astronaut. You know, I mean, so beyond that. But if you set a realistic goal and you do put your heart and soul into it and love what you do, I really think that matters. And I think that makes you a success. And I also believe that as a casting director, we're always looking for talent. It's important for actors to know that we're on their side.
I'm Joel Asher. As a director and an acting coach, I work with actors at all stages of their careers. It's just about impossible to have a professional acting career without an agent. They have access to the jobs. But who are these people who have such power? How can you get one to represent you? Who is the right agent for you? How do they get you work? We asked these and other questions of a variety of agents in Los Angeles. Agents. Tell it like it is. We talked to Peter Gianni, Vice President of the David Shapira Agency, who represent primarily stars and other top professionals.
To me, the fun of being an agent is first believing in all your clients and then going out and convincing everybody else that you're right, and you know, getting them the job.
We went to Abrams, Rubaloff & Lawrence, one of the largest commercial agencies, and talked to Pat Dawson there.
Once they're assigned, then the job is up to us. Mm-hmm. Okay? We work for the actors.
What do you do?
We get that picture out as much as possible. We will phone pitch them as much as possible and get them as much activity as humanly possible. That is our job.
We visited with Janine Cosden, who with her husband Bob runs the Cosden Agency, a kind of boutique agency that has a select list of special clients.
I call them at night if I have to, and they feel free to call me. That's the way I'd like to be treated.
Okay.
And I treat them like I want to be treated if they were my agent.
We also met with Ed Adler of the agency, one of the most respected organizations in the field.
I wouldn't necessarily believe everything that's written about every agency in there, especially if they say they're not seeking new talent, because all agents must find new talent. That's what this business is about.
Finally, we spoke to Steve Stevens of Gerler Stevens & Associates, a two-man agency representing primarily supporting players. How does a newcomer get started?
Not very easily in today's market, but if you have the talent and you're ready, meaning you've got your answering service, you've got some pictures, you've got some resumes, you've got some credits. Now, you don't have to be a professional. The only difference, I think, between an amateur and professional is somebody who's been paid for a job.
You will note that these working agents sometimes agree with each other and sometimes disagree. Every relationship is different. This tape should help you find the agent that works for you. So how did you become an agent?
It happened by accident. I came out here expecting to be a teacher and a counselor, and I had a friend from nursery school who was going to the American Film Institute, and I produced his student projects and just loved the energy level of the business, and boom, got myself involved in the entertainment industry.
So how'd you get to be an agent?
Well, I was an actor, Joe, as you know, for a lot of years. The old Mickey Mouse Club series on that with Annette. Pictures like High School Caesar, you know, big teenage cult films. series with Betty Hutton, etc. But I got to be about 19, 20 years old, and I decided I needed to get my own life going. And an actor has to count on a writer, director, casting director, producer, his agent. I wanted to do a little bit myself. So I decided to become an agent.
How did you get to be an agent?
That is a kind of long story. I am a former actress myself.
Aha!
Aha!
How did I get to be an agent? Well, when I decided not to become an actress anymore, someone suggested that because I know the business so well, I should try being an agent.
I enjoy people, I enjoy selling, and I love show business. Put it all together and it spells agent. So I dropped out of college and came back and finagled my way into the William Morris office, into their training program.
So you were trained at William Morris?
Yes.
What gives an agency the size of a William Morris the kind of power that it has?
Access to the information, tremendous access to all the information, and information is what you use to go after clients, and you start using that information to attract the bigger, the better clients, and one begets the other. You sign an Al Pacino and suddenly everybody wants to come to your agency. They're like magnets that attract.
Harrison Ford would give an agent lots of power.
So if you have a powerful client, you are then a powerful agent?
Yes, it certainly helps. I mean, that's why my name clients that I have certainly help my agency have more respect. There's no question about it. And my supporting people are so strong that then other strong supporting people, tend to want to discover this agency.
What are agents looking for in actors?
I look for what I would think any agent would look for: an excitement, an energy level, somebody that makes you feel good by talking to them, somebody you feel you might be able to trust. Trust is very, very important. When I get a picture, I don't look at a resume until I like what I see. If I really like what I see, I'll be curious. If I don't like what I see in the photograph, I don't care how many credits they have. We're always looking for new talent. And new talent, can be somebody who just decided to give up a law practice at 55. It depends on what the feel of the industry is going to be next season, is what I'm looking for this season.
You do look at every single unsolicited picture and resume that comes in?
Every single one.
What do you look for in a resume?
We look for television, film, and theater experience.
Theater too?
Theater too, absolutely. We quite frankly believe that this is the foundation for any type of acting experience. That's where we feel that you must begin to even get a start here.
Are there things that an actor can do to get an unsolicited picture and resume open?
No, I had one a long time ago when I was at APA. I had a young actress who was trying to get me on the phone, and I wasn't at the time looking for any new clients. It was a busy time of the year, and one day I get my secretary says there's a telegram out front for you, and they want to come and personally deliver it to you. I went, okay, you're not thinking, you say fine, and all of a sudden this person came into my office and did a stripogram. To try and get my attention. And, I stopped the person in midstream and said, thank you very much, goodbye. That's obviously going overboard.
Yeah.
But there's really, like I said, a lot of this business is luck. And sometimes you open that envelope and you look at that picture, and sometimes you don't. There's no telling.
All right, but can you give any guidelines as to what would make you open that envelope? What would make you respond to that picture?
Well, all of our mail gets opened. I mean, my secretary reads everything, and sometimes a nice letter, a nice note, or some information about what they're doing, or they're appearing in a play, a flyer of what they're doing. Not just a picture and saying, I'm a new actor in town and I'm looking for representation, but I'm an actor in town, I'm going to class, I'm doing this is who I'm studying with, I happen to be in this play. By the way, Drama Log reviewed it and I got a nice mention. All that ammunition. Actors have to realize that they're actors, they have to work on the craft, but they're also salesmen. And in sales, you want to present yourself as the best package possible to get in the door.
The key thing is to get yourself in front of an agent or get yourself in front of a casting director, however that is, whether it's doing performance art in an elevator, as Annie Magnuson started to do in New York to get her career going, or whether it's Michael Collier doing stand-up comedy on the beach in Venice Beach, or whether it's James Marcel doing juggling on the beach in Santa Monica. Whatever it is, you must get out there. And the more inventive ways that you can do it, that'll draw better attention from an agent. Occasionally I get very creative things in here. I had last week an actor sent me a scripted 2 pages of what my meeting would be like with him if I allowed him to come in and meet with me.
And did you allow him?
It was very cute. I brought him in. I saw that he had some incredible ideas. I couldn't judge his acting at all. I certainly know that he'd qualify as a marketing and an advertising person. But that's really what this business is about. It's about marketing yourself. That's really it. It's marketing and merchandising yourself to get representation, who will then take that responsibility out of your hands, or at least share in that responsibility with you.
She wants to give it to one of the head honchos over there. Do I have the weekend? That's what she said. I said, listen, if they make a preemptive bid tonight.
What should an actor look for in an agent?
Well, I think the first thing is passion. An actor must feel that the person who's representing them has passion for them and for their career and has a belief in their talent. That, to me, is first and foremost.
Are there things that an actor can do to generate that passion within the agent?
I don't really think so. I think, what an actor does is presents himself as an entity of talent, and then the agent either responds to it or doesn't. I mean, you can't force somebody to love you. You can't force somebody to dedicate themselves to you, and the passion has to be organic.
Well, I don't know. I guess an actor should look for an agent like me. No, they should have a rapport, that open door with each other. They should have fun with each other. I should care about them. They should care about me. You need to have a friendship. I think it's really, really important.
You need to be with someone, first of all, who needs your type, okay? Who needs your type, and someone you have confidence in to push to get you out.
I see.
We are but one of many commercial agencies in town. And fortunately, being one of the larger agencies, we know that our packages are going to be opened. The reality of it is that some of the smaller agencies, may not be able to compete in terms of getting their talent with as many casting directors as a larger agency would.
Are you saying that a smaller agency could make submissions and the envelope with all of those pictures and resumes never gets opened?
We have heard from people behind the scenes that this does sometimes happen. Let's face it, people do commercials not for the career of it. People do commercials to make money. Mm-hmm. That's the bottom line.
What makes a good agent?
I don't really think that the entertainment industry, particularly being an agent, affords one a personal life. It is not a job, it's a lifestyle. And when one gets involved in the entertainment industry, you must be ready for a commitment of a tremendous amount of hours to the field.
Is that true for actors as well as for agents?
Yeah, it's very important. I'm in my office by 8:30. And I usually don't leave much before 8 o'clock at night. So much for the glamour of the entertainment industry. It really consists of, at this level that we are operating on, to get actors opportunities, I literally come in the morning, deal with the paperwork, screw the phone into my ear, thread it in the morning, and unscrew it at the end of the day. And that's what it is. I mean, the glamour of the industry is going to the premieres, going to the openings, being at the parties, and those type of things, or at the Academy Awards. But it really is a job like any other job that requires a dedication and a real work ethic. I personally, for my own self here, I don't leave my office until I have closure on everything that started in the day. I will not leave my office until I've returned every phone call for the day. And I've talked to other agents and read interviews of Mike Ovitz and Jeff Berg, the more potent and powerful agents at CAA and ICM respectively, and they all return their calls within 48 hours. It is the smaller agents that don't return phone calls. I could put a phone call in, when I was looking for a job as an agent, I put a cold call into Jeff Berg. This is a man who didn't know me from Adam. This is a man who has 2 secretaries working for him and handles from Albert Brooks and Steven Spielberg up and down the line. 3 hours after I called him, he returned my phone call.
Personally?
Personally. That is a good agent. That is a person who loves what they do and is dedicated to succeeding. And when I mean succeeding, it's always succeeding for your clients.
What about the phone calls from actors? Do they get returned?
No, and I think the worst thing an actor can do, and I laugh every day, when we're out and we pick up the machine, is you hear, hi, my name is Bobby Jones, and I'm an actor, and I sent you a picture and resume, and I'd like to come in. Here's my number, please call me. Why would I call that person if I'm not interested? If I was interested, I would have already called that person. Mm-hmm. That's aggravating. You send the picture and resume one time. If somebody's interested, they'll call you. Maybe 3-4 months later, if you're doing a play or you popped on a show, there's nothing wrong with sending a card. Same thing to casting directors. Don't do that to casting directors either. You know, one time, one picture and resume, one card when you're doing something. But remember, we get maybe, and we're a small office, we maybe get 800 to 1,000 pictures a month.
Wow.
So, and we look through them, and we meet some people, but we can't meet everybody. But I guarantee you, if it's somebody that I find interesting, they're going to be here. Because I don't want to lose out on that talent either. Mm-hmm. It behooves me to find the right person.
Should actors follow up? Should they call in and say, did you get my picture?
We encourage that. We encourage that. Sometimes also people will enclose a self-addressed stamped postcard or envelope with a little letter to check off, let's say, not interested at this time, interested but not at this time, or please call so that we can arrange an interview. Mm-hmm. So we do encourage that because being one of the larger agencies here, we do represent about 750 clients, legal age 18 up. Our eldest client here is 92 years old. And he works.
Great. That's encouraging.
So we do encourage it because, you know, if it doesn't work out at one point, who knows, maybe in 6 months we'll have an opening for your type because people come and go all the time.
Well, I think you've got to give, an agent a certain period of time to respond. You get somebody a tape on a Monday, maybe the following Monday you call them again. Although Mondays, at least for the morning hours, are good days to avoid calling agents. Generally, an agent's morning is very full of a lot of processing of paperwork. So it's good to avoid the mornings, again, and particularly on a Monday. Friday is usually a good day to reach people. The week starts to wind down. The activity level is less in the town. So Fridays in the afternoons, I find myself to be more accessible to phone calls from, unsolicited phone calls, actors seeking representation.
Mm-hmm. And you take those phone calls?
I do. I think a little bit of what I'm saying here, I like to think of myself as a little different than the average agent.
If you haven't responded to a photo, might their follow-up call get you to bring them in?
No, but it will let them know why we did not call them in for an interview. If we feel that a person is interesting enough from the picture, we will then call them in for an interview.
Then what happens?
We like to talk to them, see where they're coming from, see what their past experience is, see if they've taken a commercial class or an improv class, which is very important for commercials.
Taking an improv class is very important for commercials?
I think improv class will give you an edge in doing well in commercials because it will teach you how to think on your feet. A commercial class teaches you commercial technique in terms of learning how to read cue cards or learning how to interact with others when you're interviewing. These are very important things. However, if you take an improv class, I think that's just going to broaden your skills comedically.
What is the formula for an actor to get an agent?
I don't know there is a formula. You know, it's kind of like nothing succeeds like success. William Goldman had said in one of his books about success in the industry, the answer is there is no answer. However it works for you is how it happens. If I were an actor and I were looking for talent, the first thing I'd do would be to pick up the book that lists all the agencies in it. I wouldn't necessarily believe everything that's written about every agency in there, especially if they say they're not seeking new talent, because all agents must find new talent. That's what this business is about. You get yourself into local theater. This is, again, before you have an agent, so you really can't book yourself. So you must get yourself in local theater, rep groups. You can put yourself on tape doing monologues and doing interactive scenes with other actors. And these can be sent out to agencies that, in some cases, you know, a good amount of agencies are willing to look at those kind of tapes.
So videotape is another way for an actor to get an agent. What do you want to see on that tape? And does it need to be network quality, or do you look beyond the production values to the acting values?
I can only speak for myself. You know, I know certain actors will put a tape up there and the production value and the quality isn't there, and the tape will be rewound and that'll be the end of it. For me, I look at the quality of the acting that's going on in front of me. That's the most important thing. I will even look at commercial tapes sometimes just to get a sense of what somebody looks like on camera. Of course, I prefer dialogue, and ideally I prefer to see interactive scenes. Even monologues sometimes can leave me a little cold. I've always felt that anybody with enough preparation could prepare a monologue. So I, again, prefer interactive scenes if possible. And I'll find myself looking at 15 to 20 to 30 tapes a week. And if somebody takes the trouble to put them on tape, I will take the time to look at them.
Do actors need videotape on themselves?
Videotape today is like years ago when actors used to walk around with their portfolios, or models walk around with portfolios. It's one of the most important things. Not so much here in town, but there's so many things, as we discussed before, the shooting in Vancouver, the shooting in Texas, on location in Arizona, and those production companies are there. San Diego, a lot of things are shooting in San Diego. So if I have a tape of a client, I can call down there directly to the production company and say, I'm sending you a tape, or the casting director down there. I can't send the actor there. A picture and resume is not going to do it. That is the most important thing. Once that is possible, that is why an actor should put their pictures up at AFI and do these UCLA director tapes and films and senior projects, because those are as good as a professional production.
Really?
Don't go out and pay to have a tape made. Those are awful. Stay away from that. That's a ripoff. Those are awful. They don't look right, and everybody knows what they are. But if you can do the other thing, student films, your agent will be able to use that. Plus, those films are screened at all the studios. The senior films, the director reels, that's so directors, new directors out of cinema school can get a job. So you're having people, very important people. Steven Spielberg is going to be watching you act. That's important. That's big. Great. So it doesn't have to be getting 2 lines, you know, on a Murder, She Wrote. You can do a lead in a half-an-hour film and sustain a character, work with, who knows, maybe the next Spielberg or somebody that's going to get a job. That's how you get your videotape.
I see.
Great. I would say videotape is probably the single most important tool that an actor can supply an agent. Because then an agent can sit down with his compatriots and look at the tape, and they can either decide yes or no that's somebody they want to be in business with. And you want to hope that the actor is going to give you a piece of videotape that best shows them. And it can be several different scenes. It can be, you know, 15, 20 minutes of drama and comedy. Or it can be a half hour of just a piece of a film that they did. The videotape is very important.
Must it always be something that they've had professionally produced, like a television show or a feature film, or are videotapes that are privately produced, okay, like acting class scenes and that kind of videotape?
I've seen a lot of those, the acting class tapes that have been done privately, and unfortunately the quality of those is never that good that an agent can sit down or get his compatriots to sit down, because you have to realize, I mean, I hate to say it, but everybody in this business is a bit of a snob. and they sit down and they see somebody who's delivered a cassette that's been done by an acting class or a friend of a friend, and it's a cold reading, they're going to sit there and go, well, is that the best they can do? Suddenly it puts them in a different level. I'd rather say to my compatriots, go see that actor in this play, because it's a professional setting, and it's better because they don't have tape. So I would say against sending a tape that was done at an acting class, as I would say, don't come in and do a scene reading in a conference room, because there's too many interruptions, and an agent is not going to be able to really give you their full attention. Wait till you're in a play, or wait till you have something to show them.
So you don't audition actors
No.
in your office?
No. No. Will not. Do not. And don't suggest that anybody does that.
Here we do not ask them to read copy. We just don't think that that is a fair representation commercially.
You don't have people do readings in your office?
Oh, yes, I read everybody.
You do have them do readings?
Oh, I never have a client come in here unless their reputation is so precedes them that I'm embarrassed to ask. And believe me, that's happened many times. I mean, I wouldn't ask certain people, but if I don't know their work, oh yes, I do a scene with them. And they're always very surprised because I know the scene by heart and I never take my eyes off of them, and they're so petrified. They're going, oh my goodness, and she can act. Oh dear, what have I gotten myself into? But oh no, I never will bring anybody new in without that. Never.
Okay. Do you use videotape as a way of finding clients? If an actor submits a videotape to you?
Some actors submit videotape, yes, and I will look at it. Yes, I always look at it. I mean, they take the time and the trouble to send it. I will look at it, yes. And sometimes it's doomsday. and other times I go, man, this picture doesn't even depict how wonderful he is, on tape. Absolutely, no, the tape is good to get an agent, I think. I think that's the most important thing tape is good for.
Even though we do not solicit tapes here, we will look at them if they're sent. For us, tapes are really handy in terms of showing commercial work. A lot of times people will send us their theatrical tape, which is really it's useless for us because the theatrical is totally different from commercials.
We've talked about pictures and resumes, videotape, and doing theater in town. Are there other ways agents discover talent?
We try to be as open as we can. We are a good, strong, mid-sized company. So it would take a very special talent. It would probably take all of us going out to theater together one night and absolutely falling in love over a piece of talent that is up there on the stage. We do on occasion bring people into the office to have them do scenes, but most of our talent we get through referrals from personal managers, through referrals from casting people, through referrals from producers.
Your clients could recommend actors and casting directors could recommend actors.
Yes, people that I know, people that I can respect, yes, can recommend to me an actor to see, and I usually will do that, yeah. Yes, okay. Yes, I will.
But if it's not a recommendation, then it has to be an unsolicited picture coming across your desk that jumps out at you.
Yes, and that's seldom. It's the truth. It's seldom that I'll bring somebody in. Maybe once every 3 weeks, I will bring someone in from pictures from across the desk. So it's worthwhile them doing. It happened to me 5 months ago. I brought a beautiful girl, a young girl of 17 in. She's now got a 4-year contract on Bold and the Beautiful.
Wow.
It was her 3rd audition in her life.
Oh my God, who was that?
Her name is Maitland Ward. And we made up, that's her new name. We can't use her name because her father is in the business, but it had nothing to do with her whatsoever. That's really a Hollywood story.
Once you sign an actor, then what happens?
Well, the way we operate here, we have, as I said, 4 agents, so it must be unanimous to sign somebody. It would be tantamount to having a 4-cylinder car with only 2 cylinders working if 2 agents didn't want to sign the same client that the other 2 wanted to. What will happen is we'll bring a person in. We'll go through the paperwork and the contracts. We will look at the actors' pictures. We might make suggestions on the changing of pictures. If we do, we will have the actors then bring the proof sheets in. We will suggest photographers. We will have the actor bring the proof sheets in. We will all look at the proof sheets together. We might restructure the actor's resume. And then we start to introduce the actor to the community that employs the actor, the casting people and the producers. Initially, what we do here is we sometimes have a contest to see who's going to be the first person to get the new assigned actor out. We put a little grid sheet together, and because we want to get that person going right away. Because that's at the point, it's like any relationship, that's when the greatest enthusiasm is right at the beginning of the relationship. Sure. So we all dig in very hard to get that person off to a good start.
Once they're assigned, then the job is up to us. Mm-hmm. Okay? We work for the actors.
What do you do?
We get that picture out as much as possible. We will phone pitch them as much as possible and get them as much activity as humanly possible. That is our job.
How does an agent get an actor work?
Well, first of all, you have to have an actor that's got talent, that might be physically right for a particular project. That's the key, is to find somebody that fits into a certain niche and then go after that particular role. It's very hard in today's market to be very creative. So if they're looking for a bad guy, you need to send them a bad guy. If they're looking for a nerdy guy, you need to send them somebody who, wears the glasses and the bow tie.
We are dealing in a very visual market. You have to look demographically like what Madison Avenue thinks is going to sell. We're basically order takers. We fill the order.
And I don't know if everybody listening to this is familiar with breakdowns, but every TV show, every feature, every episodic show, every movie of the week or miniseries that comes out has a breakdown of the characters that they're looking for. A small description of a few sentences. We'll write down anywhere from maybe 5 to 10 or more suggestions per role. We get the paperwork out in the morning, and then by later that afternoon, we're already calling to follow up on our submissions. And even as I'm making the submissions, if it really jumps out at me, I will pick up the phone while I'm making the submission and call the casting person or the producer and say, listen, I think so-and-so is real right for this. You'll have a picture by this afternoon.
What resources do you use to get actors work?
Mainly the breakdowns. Others, your relationship with producer, director, and your working relationship with the casting director, who will call you and say, before the breakdown comes out, and say, who do you have for such and such? I mean, that's the ultimate, when you get the casting director trusting you that much. As far as breakdown, it is the main source. There's no question about it.
We use the breakdown service, but hopefully you've already had the scripts before the breakdown comes. It's more getting to know the executives, getting to know the buyers, because an agent is obviously no good as a salesperson if he doesn't know the buyers that he's selling to. So a lot of our job is, the proverbial word schmoozing, sitting down and just spending some time and getting to know the person so that the next time you call or the next time you're there, they'll sit with you, they'll talk with you, you become their friend.
I see.
And a lot of it is just doing that.
Smaller agents always have trouble getting access to information. If you represent name talent that the networks or the studios are pursuing to get a project going, you get your information early on. Any company out there that operates just on the basis of the breakdown information is already behind the game by the time that information comes in. Because most projects start off with actors being attached to them.
How do you sell a client?
Selling a client is reading the material, saying, wait a minute, I think this actor would be right for that role. And then it's talking to the casting person, talking to the director, talking to the producer, talking to the studio executive or the network executive, going back a second time, going back a third time, getting the client the appointment, holding your breath that they'll go in and do a good reading, that they'll be up that day, they'll be happy or whatever, and then finding out that the reading was good, and then going back and seeing, well, are they going to go to the network and test? Are they going to go to the studio executives and test? What's going to happen? And staying on top of it until ultimately they're the one or they're not the one.
Well, what is your day like?
Well, my day today probably consisted of anywhere from probably about 180 to 220 phone calls going in and out.
Wow.
We generated this week probably about 85 meetings just out of my office alone for actors, and that's a client list of about 120, 130 people.
You personally handle 120 or 130
No,
people?
the company handles probably about 120 to 130 actors.
And how many do you handle?
I'm responsible probably for about 35, 40 actors.
How many clients can you handle at one time?
Don and I, a two-man office, we could probably handle 60, 70 people. Now, let me explain that. Probably a two-man office can even handle 100, which we don't, because they're in categories. Maybe you'll have 10 or 15 men and women 65 and up. And then you get the 35 to 45. And then you got the 19 to 20. Well, you start all of a sudden, it's 15 here, 15 there, 15 there. Men, women, that's not a lot of clients. And in today's market, unless you're ICM, William Morris, you have to have enough clients to pay the bills.
Sure. So you could have clients that are in the same category, more than one of them.
In the same category, but would not compete with each other. That I do not want, and I'll explain that.
Please.
I could have a Joel Asher, okay, in your age range, and I can have another character act in your age range. You're bald, or balding, excuse me. He's not. You have a beard, he does it. You're short, he's tall. The only time that I will submit 2 actors or 3 actors or 4 actors for the same role if it's nondescript. They don't know what they're looking for. I might submit a black lady and a white man for the same role.
Really?
Sure. What is this, a judge? It's a doctor? It's a social worker, excuse me. That way, that gives me a chance to be creative.
Let's listen in on an agent at work.
Well, the only person that hadn't okayed it was the executive producer, but they didn't feel there would be any problem. All the creative people want to talk to you and say that, yeah, this is what we feel. They know who you are. They know you can do it. There's no problem. Like you're going to have to read for it? Forget it. It starts Tuesday. No, it's offer only or nothing. Okay, bye. Some babe from Las Vegas, some casting lady in Las Vegas, all of a sudden now got in on the deal. And if she screws us up, I'll kill her.
You want your agent to get you in the door, to create those opportunities for you. Then the ball is in your court at that point as an actor.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, an actor should always be working, either in the theater or with a group or something. Because when the time comes, when the call comes, you got to be here tomorrow at 1:30. They have to be ready. And if they haven't done anything for 2 months, which is very common in this business, if they haven't done one thing, they go in there and they're so nervous that the nerves take over their talent. So to me, an actor must keep on their toes by doing something. I get discouraged if after a lot of going out and they haven't booked anything, because that's a lot of time spent. You know, and the object here for me, in the beginning, I didn't think about money at all. I just wanted to get people jobs. That's all I wanted to do. But I began to realize I had to pay the rent. I had to have office. I had to have messengers. I had to have this, and I had to do that. You know, I thought this was going to be a philanthropic work. Well, I no longer am quite naive, and I realize that I have to have actors that get the ball in the hole and get the job.
Well, most actors that are quote-unquote overnight successes have probably been struggling in the business for anywhere from 5 to 15 years. My biggest complaint about an actor would be an actor who goes in unprepared for a meeting.
Nothing drives me crazier than when you work very hard to get an actor an audition, an appointment to go read, and they don't go prepared. You know, for someone to come into this town and say, I'm an actor, that's great, but how serious are you about your career? To me, an actor is like a racehorse, and a racehorse has to constantly stay in training to win the race. And I always say to my clients, you rehearse, you go to classes, you do what it takes to become a better and better actor, and leave all the other stuff to the agent or the agent and manager, whoever you have as your team to be out there slaying the windmills, so to speak.
Then would you rather actors don't go out and look for work on their own in addition to the work you do?
Well, I think the relationship between an actor and a client, excuse me, an actor and an agent is like a partnership. There are times when the actor may find out some information that the agent's not aware of, and hopefully more times than not, the agent will have the information before the client does. But this town is so big, the industry is so big, and if you're an actor of note, or if you've been in this business longer than a day and a half, you're going to have relationships, you're going to know people, and you're going to hear information that just by being out there, that doesn't mean that the agent is not doing his or her job. It just means that they can't be in all places at all times.
Do you get annoyed when actors call and ask you to submit them for specific things?
Not at all. Not at all. And I always welcome those calls because once in a blue moon, we won't think of a particular person for a particular role, and they'll call and say, gee, I understand that Warner Brothers is casting this project, and I've read the script, and I think I'd be great for this role. And you go, wow, you're right. We're only human.
Do you mind if actors submit themselves?
That's just not done. They cannot do that. They can do that for theater, 99-seat waivers and things like that. But no, the casting, they get so many pictures now, they can hardly deal with it. No, they should never submit themselves. They can call me and say, look, I know about this role, and I worked for this person before, please, and that's absolutely okay. But no, not submitting themselves. If they don't have an agent, go for it.
And I gotta tell you, I wouldn't pick up the phone and call.
How much should actors and agents be in touch?
Here at Abrams, Rubaloff, and Lawrence, we have, give or take, about 750 clients.
Wow.
And like I said before, that's from 18 to 92. And we know every one of them by face. However, they need to come in, the actors need to come in occasionally just to say hello. Just to see if the hair has gotten longer, or if that guy has grown a mustache, or if they're terribly tanned for some reason, if they've been staying out in the sun too long, we'll tell them, too much sun. They're never going to cast you that way unless it's for a suntan commercial, or unless it's for, a surfer guy or something like that. So it's important to your agent to let them see any drastic changes in you, as it is important for your picture to look like you.
I would like to see a client in my office at least once a month to renew my interest. I like to see them, I like to talk to them, I like to have a relationship with them. I don't like to go 6 months without seeing them. I forget them.
Yeah.
I totally forget. So yes, they should call once a week. That's enough. Okay. And they should come see me. They should come in. Hi. I just, and then I see them again. And then that makes me remember how handsome or how character-y or how wonderful they are.
I would think that if you haven't spoken to your agent in a week and a half, 2 weeks, it's time to put a call in and find out what is going on.
How often should an actor stay in touch with the agent?
Whatever that comfort zone is. You don't want to hassle the agent too much, because then what happens is you become a nudge and nobody wants to talk to you. But then again, you don't want to not call because it's your career, it's your life.
They fight like the dickens to get that agent, and then they live in total fear of calling that agent, figuring that if they call too often, they're going to turn that person off, and then they're going to be out on the street again looking for another agent.
How does an actor build a relationship with an agent?
Honesty. Always be there when the agent needs you. Have a beeper. Just don't have an answer machine that you can't call into. Have your pictures, resumes, be professional, be on time. Never ask an agent to change your interview time. I don't care if you have a doctor's appointment, unless you're having a baby. There's no reason, because it takes too many phone calls back and forth, and the chances are they can't. And if you can't make it, they're going to cast somebody else. And that frustrates an agent once they've gotten you an interview. Sure. Don't call all the time and say, what's happening? What's going on? You'd be the second one to know. There's nothing wrong every once in a while calling and saying, maybe every 3-4 months, can I come in? I'd like to see what's going on. Do I need new pictures? You know, do we need a change? Don't bug your agent. That's very, very important. That's, I think, the main thing. Be likable, be honest. Don't try to beat an agent out of residual money. It's amazing how many actors try to do that. And once an agent has to ask you for money, then whatever relationship you had is gone.
Sure.
Honesty, that's the most important thing.
Mm-hmm. Once an actor is signed and the relationship begins, sometimes actors complain that then nothing happens.
Right.
And the agent calls, they call the agent, and the agent says, it's slow now.
Right.
What does that mean?
Well, it could mean that it is slow, because there are a couple of times during the season or the year that things do slow down. Right now we're in a slow period because the networks are announcing their schedule, the Cannes Film Festival is on, so it's a period where a lot of people take vacations for a week or two, so it is a legitimately slow period. They're buying writers for staffing and all that. But the other side of it is that answer just means that the agent isn't doing their job. And they figure if they can just slough off the client long enough, or the agent may have lost interest in the client. Like I said earlier on, we're only human, and sometimes we are enthusiastic about signing somebody, and we've sent them out on a lot of auditions, and the feedback has been very negative, or it hasn't been what we expected it to be. Now, if you're fair, you'll say to the client, you know what, the agency's kind of lost interest. Maybe it would be better for you to find another agent. But a lot of people don't do that, so they just let the client wither away on the vine, hoping that one day they'll get mad enough and they'll leave.
Why not just tell the truth?
Well, because a lot of people are afraid of the truth. They're afraid to, to be honest with one another, because they want to look like the good guys. They want to look like the heroes.
I think that actors spend their life waiting to be rejected. The frustration of actors not getting employment, we all need to blame somebody at some times. So I think agents sometimes find themselves as scapegoats for actors not being booked.
Is one of those professions where there's really no age limit.
I guess actors go in and out of fashion like clothes.
Yes, and that's why talent is the first thing.
It's like an actor's routine. We do exactly what they do, except they get 90% and we get 10%.
A personal manager, by definition, advises and counsels on career decisions. An agent seeks and secures employment opportunities and negotiates the deals.
I get a call for them, but it's very difficult when I'm selling something that they don't know. I'm saying a name to them and they go, oh, well, I don't know that person. And then it's up to me to excite them. That's the hard part.
So whatever you have to do within reason, then one should do it. If it means calling your agent once a week or once every other day, or being out there talking to people, going to classes, reading scripts, or knowing what's going on, we're all part of the same team.
I'm Joel Asher. As an acting coach and a director, I realize that actors and directors share the most critical relationship in film and television. When it works well, magic is created. When it doesn't, disaster. So I decided to ask some award-winning film and television directors how they work with actors. We also talk about the differences between acting on the stage versus film and television, and many more important issues in the fourth of the Actors at Work series, Directors on Acting. We talked with Jeremy Kagan, writer, teacher, and director of such films as The Chosen and The Journey of Natty Gann, and television shows including Ally McBeal, Chicago Hope, and Roswell. He's directed Harrison Ford, Richard Dreyfuss, Sally Field, John Lithgow.
You have to be true to the given circumstances, the prior circumstances, and the event of the scene. And that you didn't make up. That the writer made up, the director has guided you to know where this scene is going, what the intention of the character is at this particular moment. And that is definitely within a framework. That's chosen, and you didn't choose it. But how you do it, that's your freedom. That's your choice.
We interviewed Jane Anderson, who writes and directs movies for television, such as The Baby Dance and If These Walls Could Talk Too, and has worked with Vanessa Redgrave, Winona Ryder, Nicolas Cage, Bridget Fonda, Jodie Foster.
So I always suggest that an actor on a set be a self-starter. You know, have a repertoire of little subtext kicks that you can give yourself when take after take you feel yourself getting stale. So you give yourself a little secret hit.
We spoke to Arthur Hiller, the director of such films as Author, Love Story, and Plaza Suite. He's been the president of the Directors Guild and the Motion Picture Academy, and has worked with such actors as Al Pacino, Kevin Spacey, George C. Scott, Jack Lemmon, Walter Matthau.
Why do you have to hit the mark? You have to hit it because everything is lit for the visual reason. And those marks should be created for dramatic reasons too. That's why it's not just the actor having to hit the mark. The mark should be in the right place. Then the actor won't have trouble hitting it.
We discussed television acting with Asad Khalada, who has worked primarily in situation comedies such as Dharma and Greg, Everybody Loves Raymond, Sister Sister, Designing Women, Who's the Boss, Family Ties, and specials like Kelsey Grammer on fatherhood.
There's a much greater intimacy in working in front of the camera, and even in multiple camera, which is still has aspects of a proscenium approach because there is an audience and you're projecting to the audience, but you are still playing to the camera. So generally in television, as opposed to theater, less is more.
And we spoke to Gordon Hunt, who, in addition to being a famed television director of sitcoms, voiceovers, and animation, is also an actor. He has directed Mad About You, Frasier, Coach, Two Guys and a Girl.
I get a little brutal when I'm talking about actors who don't have much experience, because my response to that is, go get experience. Do this, do what your job is, anywhere, anytime, anyhow you can. If you're an actor, act.
Actors and directors have different jobs to do, but they depend on each other. And the results of their collaboration can be sheer magic. Let's find out about the actor's contribution to the process. There's all this talk about the magic that happens. Where does it come from? How can they get it?
It's a valid question, and it has to do with being honest. What's that mean? That means being open to who you are at the moment. That's what good acting is. It is being so true to your feelings, your senses, your responses, your presence, and being unafraid to express it in any form. That's what great acting is. That means it's unpredictable. That means to some degree it might be dangerous in sense of the social phenomena, because it might be unacceptable, but it's true. So the issue becomes that kind of willingness to be naked, both physically and emotionally.
Can you give us an example?
I was thinking of Brando's performance in On the Waterfront. And how many times you watch this? I mean, it just, repeatedly, it just gets more interesting every time. And you even know every gesture, and yet it's still there. Because there's so many levels that are going on in terms of the work that this particular person was able to do at that time. And it's, and when we think about it, it's not just sort of the psychological work, it's also body work, it's also voice work. And there's just so much going on there, and that's what you really wish for an actor to do.
Some actors, in order to play a character, they become that character. They become that person. They are no longer themselves. They are that person.
Mm-hmm.
There are other actors who play that character with the emotions of the situation. Yes. And there are others who will intellectualize it. The whole thing will be done in their minds, the preparation. Somebody like Olivier did most of it in his mind, and yet look what came out. And there's no right or wrong. It's, can you present that emotional message to your audience?
How should actors prepare for working on the camera as opposed to working on stage?
Read the script, as I do as a director, once to just get a feeling of it, read it again, without making any judgments or trying to make a choice, trying to find a hook. Read it again, and then read it. In other words, keep reading it, and pretty soon maybe an idea for one little moment will land, will come to you from God knows where. And you read it again, oh, there's another little discovery, and let these discoveries happen rather than trying to say, I've got to find out how to do this on the second read-through or the first read-through. And let it kind of build from there.
It sounds like you're saying to read it more or less passively, to just allow things to happen.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Rather than reading it in order to, figure out what to do with the dialogue.
Yeah, yeah.
Read the play, read the film script, get a feeling of that character, and feel what it is that is going to fit into that story. All the actors prepare. They all think carefully and work out who they are and what they're feeling. They may not do it to the 9th degree or the 10th degree because they want to feel it when we either rehearse, they're going to get changes, or when we're filming or when we're rehearsing the filming. You're learning all the time.
I remember I was working with a young actor, Harrison Ford. I think he later had a fairly decent career. But when he was starting, he got this third role in a feature my first feature, a feature called Heroes. And the character he was playing was a guy who was from Arkansas. And he came in to me and said, do you think it's okay if I went to Arkansas for a couple days? And I mean, I just beamed because, most people don't want to do homework. Most people are lazy. And the idea that this guy wanted to go out there and hang out with some people in order to get a feeling that he could bring back to the part was fabulous. So that kind of research, I mean, it's, if you're lucky enough to do a piece that's historical, you can delve into it. You can read journals, you can look at images, you can find ways people once lived that are different from the way we live now. What a fascinating thing. So, I mean, that's an aspect. So there's improvisational work, there's character work, there's research work. I mean, these are all, tools, again, that an actor has to prepare. Let me add another idea, which Peter Weir spoke about. He said that when he works on a film as a director, he eats the script. What he was trying to say was he had to make the script his own. And therefore, literally reading it as an actor might over and over and over again, till it really becomes yours. You know it as you know anything about you. It's not over there, it's within you. And in that sense, to consume it so that it consumes you, so it becomes part of you, is also part of the work. So you're not distanced from it. And it's an interesting issue because sometimes you work with actors who purposely will not read the script until the very moment when they perform. And there's some very great actors who do this. Very different from this classical training where, I know every line, I know everybody else's line. I don't even know my lines, but why I'm doing it this way is because I want it to be so spontaneous that, in fact, I want these lines to be fresh. Now, for some actors that works. For many other actors, it's just laziness.
What I have experienced with, especially with actors who are day players, and a day player being someone who only gets one day's worth of work, they're going to walk on the set and they aren't going to know anybody. They won't have rehearsed with the star. And chances are, unless they're working with me, they aren't going to have a director who's going to give them a lot of direction. So I suggest that an actor really sit down with themselves and find little parts of their character that are secretly unique. Don't expect that it's going to show up, all of it's going to show up on the screen. But if you give your character, especially if it's a smaller part, a whole biography, and especially a whole story before, a story about the moment they're about to play their line.
What do you mean by a story about the way they're about to play the line?
Well, for instance, you might have a part where you have to come on and you have to say to De Niro, who's playing something, hey, boss, you know, there's a so-and-so out there and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Yeah. And so you don't just come on like a lug and say the line and feel like a jerk because nothing is happening. Or you can give yourself something more profound, like you're in love with this guy's girlfriend. So you come in, you know, hey, boss. Hopefully the director will give you a little something to go on.
Is that what you mean by secrets?
Yes. I think secrets are the great secret to being interesting on film. Secrets are subtext, basically.
There are two areas that I think about. One is the actor's own work in preparing for a part, the homework that is done privately, and that you and I talk about a lot in terms of how an actor prepares and how a role is built and so forth. However, in working on a television show, beyond that, there are some other unique dynamics that I think exist.
And what happens when you're on the set?
To me, one of the most important aspects that an actor needs to be aware of is that he or she is going into a situation that is already in progress. The train is on the track, it is running, and you are coming in and you're hopping on and hopefully catching on, and you'll stay there for the ride, which means that a lot of the traditional actor prepares techniques need to be done privately on your own time when you're by yourself. But when you're coming onto the set, you're not saying, well, let me think about what the motivation is, what it is that this role is about, what is the backstory, this is not what you're there for.
An actor should be aware of everything that's going on. It's a different kind of focus. You are acting. You are not being this person. You are acting this person. And even if you're very emotionally connected, the worst thing an actor can do, among many things, is to be so focused on their intention, their character, what they have to do. It's that, I call it the actor studio bubble, where you're kind of, you know, in this kind of your own little world of what you are, so that you have no awareness of what's going on around you.
How is acting for film and television different from acting in the theater?
On stage, you can be, how should I say, a little more intellectual and do well. On film, you need a little more of the heart, of emotions. You have to act in a different manner. You have to act in a closer manner, a more intimate way, even in strongly dramatic scenes and even in wild, crazy scenes.
Does that mean that what goes on underneath is smaller too?
What goes on underneath must be the same. That's why I was making the point initially, that what you have to do is to be able to get a hold of that character, to get the feel of that character, to present it to the audience in a way that they not just hear it or see it, but that they feel it with their gut. That's That's the trick.
For me, you know, the acting process is the same, whether it's for the stage or for the camera. It's bigger for the stage, it's louder for the stage, but you take all of that and just compress the volume and compress the demonstration kind of thing that you need to do for a bigger auditorium, and prepare the same. In other words, if you have a scene that's going to require you to come running in through a door or something, I would suggest you pump up and physically get the body going and get the breath going. Especially the breath is a great tool for an actor to have, because most dramatic circumstances have something to do with some tension, and coming in like this is better than coming in and saying, "Oh, I just ran over here."
Yet actors are told so much that acting on camera, you need to make everything smaller and keep the gestures at a minimum.
Well, but in the sitcom world, not so much that. I mean, you don't want to go crazy, and you're not going to declaim and do this, but I think a freedom of the body is important for an actor. And then somebody can come and say, you know what, we're going to come in closer next time. Let's bring it down a little bit. And part of your job then is to be able to do that, to be able to just move a little less and yet have the same feeling of freedom that you had.
I always suggest that an actor on a set be a self-starter. You know, have a repertoire of little subtext kicks that you can give yourself when take after take you feel yourself getting stale. So you give yourself a little secret hit.
And this doesn't have to be something that comes out of the text. This can be something that you just make up.
I was working with Stockard Channing for the baby dance, and we were doing a scene taking place inside a trailer. It was a deeply uncomfortable scene. And she was starting to get just a little too relaxed. And so I said, Stockard, you know how they keep offering you water and 7-Up? Well, you're too embarrassed to use the bathroom in the trailer, and you have to pee so badly. She said, yeah. So she started delivering the lines, and no one, you wouldn't know what the subtext was, but it also was supposed to be very, very hot in the trailer, and itchy and claustrophobic, and just that one little physical thing just gave her this marvelous twitchiness, and it was wildly funny and wildly effective. And that's an example of just a simple physical thing that doesn't detract from the sense of the scene.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
There's a much greater intimacy in working in front of the camera. And even in multiple camera, which is still has aspects of a proscenium approach, because there is an audience and you're projecting to the audience, but you are still playing to the camera. So generally in television, as opposed to theater, less is more. In a close-up, the camera is your closest friend, and the less you do, the stronger it registers.
How do you reconcile the less is more with the hyper energy of sitcoms?
It is very difficult. That is the most difficult balance to maintain. You have to keep doing it, trial and error, until you know.
Is there a contradiction between just telling the story and coming up with all of the hyper energy that sitcoms sometimes need?
That's a good question. Yes, but what you need to do is take that energy and focus it into telling the story.
I've noticed that on shows like Mad About You, which you are of course familiar with,
yes,
that these are performers who are so good at moving a story along, and yet you never get the sense that they're rushing. How do they do that?
There is an internal energy, and I'm talking about Paul Reiser and Helen Hunt. They have an internal energy and an internal comic clock that is flawless. And they can feel when something's lagging, they can feel. And the other thing they did, and I think one of the reasons, besides they were so funny, the two of them really captured the 90s, I think, in the busyness of life.
One of the great characteristics of good acting is reacting, being in the moment when you're not on stage, as it were. It isn't your line, but you're in the moment and you're in the scene. And that silent reaction to somebody may be as important, particularly filmically, that may be what we cut to, rather than actually seeing the person speak. So listening to each other becomes a crucial element of good acting.
There are many times when you write a scene or when you do a scene and you look at it after and you don't need half the scene just because of what an actor did in delivering one line or maybe just raising one eyebrow that gave that whole message. And hopefully we each play off the other. I learn all the time from the actors. I obviously learn from the writer. You know, people say, how do you conceive of a film? Do you see it right away? I said, no, I just keep reading it and reading it and reading it, and I begin to feel it and I begin to see it, and hopefully the writer has obviously done some wonderfully original work that tells that story. Then hopefully I will bring something to it that the writer doesn't. Hopefully the actors will bring something to it.
What about the actor's obligations to the character or to the script?
I think the work that an actor does is twofold, in the sense that you look at the character that is presented by the writer and that you are in discussion with the director, and you discover those elements of that character that seem to be appropriate now for this particular personality that you are trying to portray. But the other side of that is that you then have to find in you that character, meaning that you have to, in essence, personalize who that person is you're trying to portray, find that person inside you. Now, one of my thoughts is that within us as individuals is every single human being, every single emotion, every single experience, every possibility, every potential is within every individual. In that sense, each one of us is, if you will, godlike, and each one of us, therefore, shares everyone else's experience.
You've talked about being in the moment. How does an actor get into the moment and still make it right for that scene and that character?
Well, remember, what I was saying is you're, as an actor, in your homework, you found that part of you that identifies with and is similar to the character. You've done that in your homework already. Now there's also some realities of the work. There are the prior circumstances and the events of the scene, meaning there's who you are, how you got here, and why you're here, which is the work that you need to do. You don't walk into a scene without knowing where you were before the scene started. If you do, you're not doing your homework. And there is literally the event of the scene, of which you have to be attuned to. This is a moment where I'm trying to convince her that she should leave her husband. Well, that's what the scene's about. You got to be clear that you know what the scene's about and hear the words that you use to say it. Now, who you are and how you do it is the work you do on a personal level in association with the character that you're creating. So you have to be true to the given circumstances, the prior circumstances, and the event of the scene. And that you didn't make up. That the writer made up. The director has guided you to know where this scene is going, what the intention of the character is at this particular moment. And that is definitely within a framework. That's chosen, and you didn't choose it. But how you do it, that's your freedom. That's your choice.
What master should the actor serve? Is it the camera? Is it the role? Is it the actor's own sense of truth? The other performers? What should the actor be responsive to on the set?
In terms of the master the actor serves, it is the truth of the role, the truth of the creation coming, the person being brought to life.
As a director, what kind of preparation do you expect an actor to bring on the set?
Clarity of mind, clarity of thought coming in, with the ability to, or with the readiness to listen, to respond, and to be a part of a team. But in terms of, let's say, a half-hour comedy, for which you're hired, and you have one scene, that scene, you can do the background that you want and know who the woman or the man is and what the backstory is and what their lives are. But in that scene, you're coming in because you are the best friend and you are sharing an intimacy for that moment and you are gossiping. Yeah. That is it. That is what the scene is about. That is how it serves. And so I would say be careful that you stay within those bounds and be simple. Mm-hmm. Be simple. Trust the fact that that impression that you gave of who you are in the audition is what will serve you best of all.
Yes.
To encapsulate it, it is very important for an actor coming on a television set to as quickly as possible understand how the set works, how the director deals with the actors, what is the language spoken, what is the rhythm of the rehearsal, how do people relate to each other, just so that you know you're coming into a new environment that is new to you but is very familiar to everybody else, to listen, to be aware, to be alert, and to respond to what is asked for, as opposed to come in, which is what we're trained for as actors and directors, to come in as prepared as possible to do what you think you must do, and you're so involved with that you're not aware that you may be asked to do something completely different.
What kinds of things might the actor have to do to save the job?
Some energy. Sometimes a lack of energy is especially in sitcom work, again, which has to do with kind of moving through life like that. Being a team player. Sometimes an actor will come into these situations and try and score big. And you sometimes have to sit on them and say, you know, just tell the story. Just fit into the story your way. We'll get it.
When a new actor is on the set, should they spend time during breaks or lighting setups trying to network, or just watching what's going on, or just stay out of the way? What should an actor do in the downtime?
Well, first of all, make sure that you know your lines. Next, be sure you know where you stand and how you move and what that rehearsal stuff is. Networking, sure, if you're not being a pain in the butt about it, but being a pleasant member of the team and getting to know some of the people, nothing wrong with that at all. And go to the craft service table and eat.
If you're going to ask questions, they have to be very specific and very immediate, not questions about backstory or questions about why would the character want to do that. It is, when you want me to cross to the table, do you want me to pick up the book? It is situation comedy, which means we go back to the basics. What is the situation? Literally, what is funny about this moment? Okay, then you play it, and then you may say, well, it does need to be a little bit broader. It does need to be sent out. A lot of it has to do with how you receive it back. That's why we talk about acting and reacting and how do you play off of a joke. Very often the joke is the reaction, not the line. That the line is given and then how you respond to it by what you don't say. So it is, you lob the ball and then you receive it, and when does it smash and when is it an easy... I think these are all, again, buzzwords, but there is a necessary sending out that is part of comedy. I mean, we talk about the joke landing.
Yes.
Does it land or does it not land? Have you sent it? Did it register or did it not? And that you are playing with someone else. You're playing with the audience.
Are you saying that comedy is sending that energy out, whereas for drama you pull it back in?
To some extent there is that, yes.
Let's talk about camera technique.
Just remember that probably for 60% of your takes, they will require purely mechanical acting.
When does the acting become just mechanical?
Well, purely mechanical acting will be your character is going to be showing up in a scene with a lot of people because the character has a presence there. Mm-hmm. And your character isn't necessarily going to have a big emotional scene or even say a lot of lines. But your character has to have a visual presence. So the director will say, when so-and-so says that line, I need you to cross there, pick up the vase and accidentally drop it. Don't bother loading up your emotional, picture and having to do your prep. Just do it. Because unlike rehearsal or plays, movies are on a very, very, very tight schedule. And the director is trying to get as many pages shot a day as they can. And when there are those mechanical things like making a cross through a scene, hitting your mark, the hardest emotional work you'll have to do will be in your close-up. And you'll have to do very little moving around or hitting your mark there. Here's another thing to remember. The first shot of the day of your scene will be the master, mm-hmm. in all likelihood. From the master scene, everything is matched to that, meaning there's a master shot, which is really, it's almost like the stage picture shot. It's almost like shooting the whole stage with everybody, all the characters moving around. And then there'll be a medium, a little closer on that character and that character on you, and then there'll be close-ups. Just remember that everything you do in your mediums and close-ups must be matched to what you do in your master. So just because your master is farther away and it won't be your big scene, you have to set your emotional beats in the master shot.
So you're saying that the actor needs to match emotionally as well as physically?
Yes.
So you really need to
yes.
act full out in
yes.
the master.
Yes.
It's not just about geography.
Exactly. Also remember that everything you do has to be matched in an editing room. Mm-hmm. And that is the greatest bane of every actor and director's experience. There will be that person, the script supervisor will be that person sitting there with the script and a pencil in his or her ear and the stopwatch. And script supervisor is there to make sure that you physically match mm-hmm. your shots. So if you pick up a glass in one scene and you're saying your line, I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm telling you, you have to repeat that same thing over and over. So if you don't like that gulping there, make sure you get a couple of really good takes with gulping that water where you want it to be, because mm-hmm. you're going to be asked to match it.
Yes.
I was a guest on Cheers one time.
You were?
Yeah, the guy on A camera had to come over to me and say, I need you to cheat that much over here, even though you're not looking at Rhea Perlman. I said, okay, and we got the joke.
So you were talking to her, but you weren't looking at her?
Yeah.
And it looked on camera as though you were?
Exactly, on that camera.
Actually, many actors now I've subsequently learned are being very smart. They're saying, look, if it's a full wide shot, I need to know because my body's going to be all part of it. If in fact it's a close-up here, I need to know because I know it's just going to be here. It may be just my eye and my mouth. It's going to be the way this particular idea is presented, this intention is expressed. And I'm a skilled artist. Tell me what you're doing.
Why do you have to hit the mark? You have to hit it because everything is lit for the visual reason. And those marks, but those marks should be created for dramatic reasons too. In other words, it has to be an honest, that's why it's not just the actor having to hit the mark. The mark should be in the right place, then the actor won't have trouble hitting it.
Your camera lens is your audience, and it's this funny looking, I'm looking at our camera lens, it's like has rubber around it, it's this round thing and glass, and it looks inanimate and a little unfriendly. But the more you're around that lens, the more intimate you can become with it. I used to be afraid of lenses, especially when I was an actor, because I thought lenses were very judgmental, and they were cold and impersonal. I now find them very inviting. And what I suggest is that actors practice before they're going to go on a set, maybe have a friend take their picture a lot, or just, you know, just have that big lens or the video camera, and just start to learn that you can, I just got an image that that lens, instead of being cold and there's no energy in there, that actually there's like a really wonderful pink light or a golden light or sunlight, and inside that lens is a really friendly, loving being that wants you to look as beautiful or as handsome as you can be, and also wants to know your inner secrets and will not judge them. What an actor is most afraid of is being judged and looking bad. Even your greatest stars. Most stars, no matter how long they've been doing what they're doing, still are terrified the first day they get on the set, because they know they're going to have to bear very fragile, intimate parts of themselves.
You'd mentioned before that Vanessa Redgrave gets nervous before she goes onto a set. If somebody with her experience and professionalism gets that tied up, what about a new actor who's just starting out?
When I say that Vanessa gets nervous, you know, of course she's not a wreck, but she feels the danger. And that is a good thing. That is what keeps an artist alive. When an actor walks on the set and it's, you know, I can do this and been there, done that, then you get a flat, boring performance. And I think every actor, every director needs to come on a set with that feeling of, I'm about to walk out on the tightrope or the edge of the cliff. What's going to happen? Fear is a healthy thing. Fear is useful. Fear doesn't need to paralyze. Fear can give you energy, and it can kick your creative juices into full speed. So I don't think an actor should try to get rid of their fear. If you're really terrified, acknowledge it. I've learned when I'm terrified of something to go, look at that. Ooh, isn't that interesting? Oh man, I'm about to direct an action sequence. Never did that before. All right, okay. I feel fear here, okay. Oops, feel like I'm gonna throw up, fine. You watch it. And that's a basic acting exercise anyway, that in most acting classes you're asked to very honestly examine what is emotionally going on with you.
How can actors get what they need from a director?
Well, first of all, if you know yourself as an artist and you know really what is effective, you can go to a director and say, you know, for example, I had one actor, a famous actor, he came up to me and said, listen, you know, if we work together, you're going to have to push me because I really need it. I mean, you're just going to, because otherwise I'll just, you know, it'll be sort of mediocre. You're going to really have to push, you know. I love that. You know, he's saying about himself that he knew that that was true.
I was in a workshop a couple of days ago and that came up and one actor said, I did a show and the director did not say a word to me. And I said, well, I kept going to people, am I doing anything wrong? Am I doing okay, whatever? And what that actor was told is that if the director hasn't told you anything, that means everything is fine. So keep doing what you're doing. Now that happens a lot.
I try to build a real trust between the actors and myself and let them know immediately, even if I'm meeting them a half a minute before they're about to do some work, which happens sometimes, is that I'm going to be here for them in every way I can. I want them to do the best work they can, and I will use all my skills to help them do that. And they can't make a mistake. No mistakes get made. Now, make that sort of clear so that they can feel that, you know, anything, I'm fine. Whatever I do is going to be okay, and he's going to protect me, which is what my role is. Now I can just play. Sometimes I'll do a take and I say, that was fabulous. You know what, now what I'd like you to do is, let's do one more, and I don't care what you do. Get the lines right, wrong, I don't care. You know, let's just, you know what you want right now. You want to, you know, you want to escape. Well, just do it. Boom. See, sometimes great work comes from that because they're now totally free to do anything they want. They don't have to even get the lines right. So I try to get them to know that that's true.
How can an actor help you on the set?
Oh, another good question. First of all, by being relaxed, so that I don't have to worry about that. Breathe in your trailer, come on loosey-goosey, ready to work. I really, you know, I have sympathy for actors who are wrecks, but it's the last thing I want. The last thing I want to deal with is having to calm someone down. The second thing is have ideas. Get creative with me. I love it if an actor says, you know, I've been thinking, what if, you know, and if there are props, you know, hey, what if I did this and this and this? I don't enjoy having an actor waiting for me to tell them what to do with a prop or where to go or what to do. I want an actor to come up with ideas because it is a two-way thing.
It's interesting because you're going to be talking with Arthur Hiller. This is a man who really is a centered, very kind human being. And I think that warmth that he has, just as a human being, just radiates. Actors pick it up. And they're able to grab it, and it gives them, I think, a certain amount of confidence and security, and therefore a certain amount of, strangely enough, freedom.
Respect what the other people are doing. Again, that it's not a game. And if you remember that, then you have a lot going for you.
What about actors improvising? Is that useful or hurtful?
Both. It can be useful, it can be hurtful when you improvise. It depends entirely on what that brings, or whether it's within character and maybe what they improvise will bring something. And often, how shall I say, the writer is even written with the intention that the actor will fill in. Certain things are written very carefully, and you don't want a word changed. You get a script by Paddy Chayefsky, I defy you to make it better. You can't.
Especially during auditions, please, 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 please get the words right, especially if the writer is in the room. A writer spends hours getting a scene right. Words don't just describe emotion, they describe a rhythm, and they are there for wit, humor, and words are put together in a certain order for a good reason. Study why the words are put together in a certain way, and honor them. If it emotionally doesn't make sense, then you can discuss it with the director during the read-through or the rehearsal. I will always listen to an actor, preferably during rehearsal and not immediately before a take. Remember that as an actor, you are there to protect the integrity of your character. And if you feel that your character is not being represented well, or if your character is saying things that are artificial or dishonest to that character, you have every right to say something.
Improvisation, when we use that in the theater, it is used in order to create points of view, or to discover a character's inner life, or to discover relationships, and it is a trial and error thing. It is a luxury that does not exist in the rigors of television. This is how it works. The improvisation means that you think that you have a better way of saying the joke, or you have a more clever way of saying the line, in which case you're not doing your job, you're doing the job of the writer. It is a writer's medium, and writers are adamant about the value of the words written. Hours and hours and hours are spent in a rewrite room to come up with this particular line with its rhythm. Because on audition, sometimes an actor says, could I try saying this instead of that? And that is the end of it. Everybody shuts off. That means that it immediately indicates that you're going to be tampering with the script, you're going to be playing around with the words, so out. We don't have time for that. It's not what it's about. You say it as written.
I sincerely frown on coming in and ad-libbing your way or improvising your way into as part of the rehearsal process. Mm-hmm. Because A, you're going to throw off the stars and the regulars, because they won't know what the hell you're doing. There are the stars, and they've been there doing this for 6 months or 2 years or 5 years or whatever, and they don't want a wise ass coming in and showing off. Again, with television, especially sitcom television, the time element. You can't, it's not a place for teaching acting. No. You know your stuff when you walk on that stage, and if you don't, it's your job to go out and learn it, because the money's good and the hours are pretty good. So you're not getting all that for just being a good guy. It's learning your craft and really knowing what you can do, and getting out there. And if you're an actor, act. I get a little brutal when I'm talking about actors who don't have much experience, because my response to that is, go get experience. Do this. Do what your job is, anywhere, anytime, anyhow you can. If you're an actor, act.
You do so much by your instinct, but your instincts will come to you much more the more prepared you are. The more you have worked, the more you have studied your acting, the more you understand, where did acting come from? What is it you're doing when you're acting? How do you portray characters? What are the necessities? All that has to be thought out, has to be worked on. That's the learning process.
I think an actor recognizes that the instrument that he or she is needs to be tuned and worked. You have to play that violin to get it to really give it sound, and you have to do the exercises. You have to actually work through the exercises to get to where you're going to be able to, if you will, improvise. Now, those exercises are very sort of classic. They're, in terms of the actor, that's a voice, that's a body. You need to really know how to use those things that are in fact your tools. If you think that they are just going to be, there for you, then you're being naive. because you're not appreciating you need to develop it. And those people who actually studied Stanislavski, if you actually study the method is a series of pillars. In fact, Stanislavski did a series of drawings that are these pillars. Yes, there is the stuff that we think of as method acting, the subjective memories and all that stuff. Yes, that's all there. But so is fencing, body work, voice work. These are all pillars of his method, recognizing that you have an instrument that you have to learn how to use.
To get started as an actor, it takes also a lot of luck. Now, people laugh sometimes when I say you need luck, not just acting, but they say, oh, you're being humble. And I tell them stories of my luck. You've got to keep at it. You have to keep working. You have to work in this theater, that theater, wherever, little parts, big parts. Keep working, keep knocking on doors, keep trying to get the right agent, keep trying to meet the directors or the casting people, doing all those things, find out about script. You have to do all that. You have to, what I say is keep knocking on doors, and one day, one of those doors will open. And you better be good, because it's not going to open again.
People talk so much in our business about careers and how they have a career happen. And we can often lose sight of the fact that the work we do, in my reality, is just as important as the work that a surgeon does, or that a priest or a minister or a rabbi or whatever, just as the work that they do. I've seen actors work and theatrical productions and television literally change people's lives. I've had things that I've seen on the stage literally change my life and my way of looking and feeling about things. So it's important what we do, and the dignity of what actors do and can do is a vital part of our business. And I think I'm going to stop preaching in a minute, but I think it's important to remember that what we do is important in this world.
Now that you've heard from the directors, stay tuned to see what other vital information is available in the Actors at Work series.